What's up, guys? What's up? How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? I know I'm kind of late. Had a son's football practice, coaching that, then had to talk to coaches afterward. Then I had to coach my son. That's always fun. Um, so yeah. And now I'm here. And I definitely want to be on, but I kind of don't want to be on, to be honest with you, because I have a lot of footage to still do. And the problem is X is a fast moving machine. And so what's breaking and what is new, if it's not breaking and new at the moment, well, then you're already behind. So I'm behind. I have footage from today and it's now evening. And so I'm way behind. And I'm going to be more behind because I'm doing a show for you awesome people. Yeah, so that's what's going on in my world of complexities right now. So it's all right though. It is all right. Um, 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 um. Let's see. We'll see. We'll see. Other than that, what's up, Vicky? I see you on Facebook. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hopefully your night is going well. Hopefully your night is going well. Anyway. Um. Mm-mm-mm. What was I trying to do? What was I trying to do? I want to be showing Dinesh tonight. Dinesh and Andrew go at it. They did it a few days ago. I didn't get the chance to play it then. Like I said, I know it's late tonight, but I decided I probably need to get on. Maybe I shouldn't even play it. I don't know because since it's late and I'm getting home late, maybe I shouldn't even play it. Maybe I should just do. Even though I said I was going to do it, I don't know. What should I do? What should I do? I do. I need to check on. What's up, brother Corey? Um, Good to see you. What should I do? I need to I also need to show some of the end time stuff because they had some stuff. They had some stuff. Oh, look, caught one from the beginning. And I'm really interested in this debate. Are you? I'm sure you are. You just want to fight somebody. That's all you want. Troublemaker. Um, I'm good there. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to see because on Friday, End Time Ministries, they did something that was, and I don't know what their topic was today, but on Revelation 13 ahead, the digital road to Revelation, which we're on. Okay, so Friday they did Trump's historic Gaza deal. If he did a Gaza deal, anyway, I have to pay attention to that later. I want to get into this, so might as well get started. Yep, I want to fight you, you footlocker. uh all right. We'll get into this dispute between Dinesh and Andrew. So
known for his aggressive cross examination and quick improvisation, Andrew Wilson.
I don't even know why he's debating Dinesh.
So, and then just so it's no surprise, what we're going to do is right after their opening statements, which will be at the podium for 5 minutes each, we are going to move the podium and then bring the tables closer together so that the speakers are closer together for that open dialogue session. With that, we're going to start the debate. Dinesh will be going first. I have the timer set for you, Dinesh, and I will start it on your first word. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. Well, I feel like I'm going to be in the lion's den today.
Well, now you know what side he's on.
And there might be a few of you who support Israel, some of you on the fence. Most of you are probably going to be a little hostile. And so my presence here should be taken as well, I'll try to make it as painless as possible, but it's going to be a little bit of an intellectual suppository for you. I want to clarify some terms in the debate to make it clear what we're going to be debating about. And then I want to try to focus the argument in its most kind of primitive or fundamental way so we don't get drawn into sort of side issues.
We will see where Dinesh is at.
We're talking as Christians, so I'm assuming that the premise of the debate is that we are Christians, we're Catholics, we're Protestants, we're in the mainstream of the Christian tradition. My own work in apologetics has taken the C.S. Lewis kind of mere Christianity approach. I'll be using generally that in this debate. By way of background, I come from a very old Catholic family in India. It goes back about 400 years. My grandfather's brother was the Cardinal of Pakistan. So I'm deeply rooted in the Catholic tradition, the Catholic intellectual tradition. I've studied it, I've written a lot about it, and I've debated it against generally leading atheists, people like Christopher Hitchens and others. Now, Israel is not my topic. And by that, I mean in a career spanning 35 years, I haven't written about it. I barely mentioned it. I'm not known as a Zionist. I don't identify with Zionism, which was a secular socialist movement of the 19th century. I have no particular stake in Israel as a country. I'm America first all the way. And so keep those things in mind as we have this debate. If you're looking for me to sort of channel Ben Shapiro or Mark Levin, that's really not going to be happening here. I'm not a professional Israel advocate in any sense of the term. I discovered Israel really 2 or 3 years ago when I visited for the first time. And I found it interesting in 2 ways. The first one was simply that we live at a time when cities have become really homogenized. These days, there's no point going to Zurich and Copenhagen. It's all kind of one thing. Israel's not like that. In Israel, you're very conscious that you're in the land of the Bible. That is a very important feeling for Christians. You get the sense that this is your spiritual homeland. And by spiritual homeland, what I mean is that our faith is not some kind of abstraction that is delivered in the sky. It could have been. God could have put the 10 Commandments. He could have, put it on the moon.
He could have.
But he didn't do that. Our Bible, our history, our Christianity is historical. It's rooted in real people and real events and real places. It took place somewhere in the world, and that somewhere happens to be Israel. That's worth remembering and worth noting. I also discovered in the course of now 4 visits to Israel, the thing that really interests me, and that is biblical archaeology. And biblical archaeology has the definitive effect of authenticating and corroborating the people and events in the Bible. We can go into it a little bit later. I will give you the most shocking examples of this, but it is a massive refutation of the skepticism and atheism of the 19th century, which basically said that the Bible was written hundreds of years later and most of it was kind of made up. Biblical archaeology shows us that the Bible is talking about real people and true events. You can debate the miracles, you can debate the theology, but that these things are real, these people are real, the events are real, has been authenticated down to the most excruciating detail. That's very important because it also happens to establish the presence of the Jews in their ancestral homeland. And in a way, to me, the fundamental question that we're discussing today, when I say morally obligated, what I really mean is, what's the right thing to do? Now, saying what the right thing to do doesn't solve the problem of should we give money to Israel or how much money should we give to Israel. No, supporting Israel here basically means having a certain recognition of a kind of spiritual and historical kinship or line of continuity established, by the way, in the Bible. And don't think of the Old Testament as Jewish. The New Testament is just as Jewish as the Old. Both are describing Jewish communities, and Christianity came right out of that. In fact, the first Christians were Jews. They were Jews who followed the Messiah. I think historically we could say with great accuracy they were the very first Judeo-Christians. The apostles were Judeo-Christians. Now, to me, the core of this question is whose land is it?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. I was just getting more. This is my
started.
introduction, guys. All right.
We're just getting started.
Let me just put it this way. There are 3 ways to get a country. First, you were there first. That's the ancestral claim. Number 2, you got the country by some kind of negotiation or treaty. Or number 3, you got the land because you captured it. Every single country on the map in the world now has gotten its claim based on one of these 3 ways.
Ooh, that's good.
The argument I'm going to make is that Israel succeeds on all 3 ways. It checks all the boxes. Even America doesn't. The American Indians were here first. We might have conquered them, taken the land from them, so we got it by conquest. They got it by original inhabitancy. And there's a little bit of a argument over here, but I'm going to argue that the Jews were there. It's their land. Number 2, they got it by treaty. It was given to them by the United Nations. They accepted it. The Palestinians rejected it. And 3, they got it by not just by conquest. They fought 3 defensive wars against massive coalitions of Islamic forces that are into essentially global colonization. The Muslims are the real colonizers. And so whichever box you choose, Israel succeeds. And therefore, supporting Israel isn't just sort of the biblical thing to do, it's the right thing to do. Thank you very much.
So Andrew's going, no lies there. Andrew's going the other way. Andrew's against Israel. Let's see what he says. But Dinesh was on point, in my opinion, on that.
Ready for you, Andrew, on your first word. Oh, that's right. If you're able to.
I think he was on point. It is inherited. It is biblical.
Got to set the mood. First of all, big round of applause for Dinesh real quick. Great opening.
Real quick.
But that's not going to save him.
So theoretically, supposedly, there are reports saying, I had to interrupt. There are reports that came out about 10 minutes ago. Convicted felon Aaron Farinancy. He looks. Anyway, 37 has been charged with arson in connection with the Old Trails fire in Spokane County. I don't know how accurate this is. Let me see how many followers. Scope Report is claiming that independent journalists like myself. So I don't know if that's accurate, not accurate, but supposedly it's those fires are super shady. Yes, they are. It's the real BCP. It is the real BCP. Was that you the other day? Too big, too rig? Supposedly this guy. I'll show you a picture of him real quick. Right there. Supposedly that's him. That's what they're saying. I don't know. I might have to verify it, but that's one unconfirmed report. So, all right, let's go back to this.
I want for everybody to remember that the topic of this debate is if Christians have a moral obligation to support Jews in Israel. He didn't give us one. It is obvious to me that since the answer is clearly no, that Dinesh likely gave no reason, which means I predicted he wouldn't give us one. I will begin by expressing to you, the audience, that when discussing normative claims, or in this case, moral claims, you need to demonstrate why the moral obligation is there. Dinesh's view comes down to a whole bunch of really stupid propositions that actually make no sense. Note, I'm not calling Dinesh stupid. He's far from it. But even intelligent people can believe stupid propositions and often do. Logical proposition 1, Christians need to support a Jewish state of Israel because their ethics and Christian ethics overlap. This is something which Dinesh has said multiple times. The reason this is a stupid proposition is because the modern state of Israel is a secular state. This state supports abortion, and most of the public supports it. They have pregnancy termination boards, which grant 99% of applications abortions up to 24 weeks and beyond. They support gay marriage, and while not marrying gays themselves, as there is no civil marriage authority, they recognize all out-of-country gay marriages as valid, and all gay cohabitation has identical social and financial rights. Let that sink in. They are extremely pro-transgender, and their public health care system provides generously for trans surgery and voice mod training. Sorry about that.
So does America, 100%. Yep.
According to their own polling, the Israeli Institute for Gender and LGBTQ Studies has supported 75% or more for homosexual acceptance, advocacy, and gender care, which includes 90% from secular Jews and even over 50% from the religious Orthodox Jews. Now I can keep going. Women in the military, IVF programs, national health care, prostitution, pornography. These are libtards, essentially, who live in Israel that Dinesh wants us to support. A whole nation of them. Christian ethics here in the USA determines that we resist these things in our own nations. Why would we support other nations which codify these things as law? Any more than we would Sharia law.
Yeah, this is angry.
I don't want millions upon millions or billions of my dollars to be used to support a system which allows for these forms of degeneracy when we are busy combating them in our own backyard. Why would Christians support that? Now, Dinesh can argue the USA is plagued with similar problems, and that's true. And Christians here oppose our own governmental national apparatus and strongly attempt to legislate against these forms of policy. We do the opposite of funding it,
He's lying.
Except through force of tax.
Christians don't oppose. I was actually talking to somebody about this. No, Christians don't. If you go to the MAGA movement, if you go to the MAGA movement, oh, it is confirmed about that guy. Okay, so it is confirmed that guy is the arson behind. Yep. So it is confirmed. It's on KXLY and KHQ, which is Spokane mainstream media news. So that makes it legit. But no, it is legit. I'm sure they posted. Christians don't oppose those things for the most part, because if you go to the MAGA movement, because he mentioned LGBTQ, I know that for a fact Christians don't oppose that for the most part in the MAGA movement, because there are MAGA homosexuals in the MAGA movement, and Christians embrace it because, you know why they embrace it? I'm going to tell you guys why they embrace it. They embrace it because, well, it's a MAGA person. And so because they like Trump, we're not really against them. And there's a couple. I've even watched MAGA people who claim to congratulate homosexuals if they're going to, like get married or something. So no, Christians don't really completely oppose it. And these are Christians who say they're Christians who are in the MAGA movement and they support it. So it's, Christians don't really oppose a lot of these things that Dinesh is trying to claim that they do. So
Proposition 2, Dinesh believes that the Christians have it.
Here's one. Look at Scott Preisler, whatever his name is. Best friends with like Laura Trump. you have what's the other group? Gays or something, groomers for gays or something. They're part of MAGA. There are so many people who are like MAGA, and Christians embrace it. So it's not true what he's saying. I mean, it'd be nice. I'm not saying that there's not some, but for the most part, it's pretty quietly kept, especially if the person who's homosexual says that they're MAGA.
A stake in Israel because it's the holiest of holies, and the holiest Christian sites are there. I grant this is true, but that doesn't give us much reason to keep the population there Jewish. If Christians in the West truly want access to the holy sites, then why not just demand Israel, who is our protectorate, take a certain amount of Christians per year? I think 100,000 or more should do the trick. The USA has no cap on Jews immigrating here. Why not just demand they allow Christian immigration with no cap there, or we cut off all military funding and support, and that's that. Then we get the holy sites. He argues that Israelis guard these things better than Muslims. I can see that's true, but I'm certain millions of Christian immigrants could protect them just fine. Not sure why there needs to be a Jewish state to do this, or why we have a moral obligation to keep it Jewish at all.
Yes,
Proposition 3, Dinesh.
That's a good word. They tolerate. MAGA tolerates. I guess that. Yeah, if you want to say tolerate, that's a good word. I said accept. Tolerate. They tolerate it because it's MAGA. So because you're MAGA, we kind of like make this exception clause type of thing. So that's a good way to put it. Yes.
Often cites the biblical principle of those who bless Israel will be blessed. That's Genesis 12:3. Does a modern state of Israel seem very blessed to you? If you took every Jew in Israel and put them in Germany in the year 2026, they would be safer than they are in Israel. How's that for irony? Is God blessing their abortions, their homosexuality, and prostitution advocacy, the rejection of the Messiah? Doesn't seem like it to me. If that's what a God-blessed nation looks like, then I would be very wary of the blessings of that God, because he sure seems like he isn't very fond of them at the moment. Proposition 4, do Christians have an obligation to support religious Jews naming a Messiah, considering that Messiah figure will certainly be false and antichrist? This is obviously no. Don't know about Dinesh over here, but the proposition of naming a false Messiah and Christians supporting that by funding the religious, more conservative section of Jewish population claiming it's moral seems insane to me. Proposition 5, are secular Jews blessed, or non-religious Jews blessed by the same Genesis passage? In other words, if I bless atheist Jews and all their liberal policies, will I in turn be blessed with magic Jew blood? Do I need to fight and die on their behalf for this blessing?
So
is it just a mind state, like I just kind of cheer them on? Does it require action on my part? What are my actual obligations here as a Christian? What's the normative framework to receive said blessing from my support of atheist Jews? I say the opposite. As a Christian, it's my duty to resist and oppose the radical atheist and secular Jewish agenda of Israel. Until they conform to my ethical model, I would like and would do, in all cases, I would demand this of every nation, pull all financial and military support and deal with them only as a limited capacity as they could be dealt with. I am not in the business of funding abortion, homosexuality, prostitution, female empowerment. Christians must resist these propositions and demand, if Israel wants our aid, they need to conform to the standards and normative ethics of the very Christians they endlessly demand help from. To clarify a few terms, when you're making a normative claim, Dinesh, when you're making a ought claim, you need to tell us why Christians ought to support this nation. So far, you have not done that.
Well, so far it just started. So let him say why Christians did, because the one is biblical.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for those openings. So for the open dialogue, I have the timer set. This will be 80 minutes, and we're going to move the speakers just a little closer. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Excellent work. And then, Sean, if you can give us a thumbs up on whether or not that's where we need them. Maybe if you could bring it just a little closer, maybe with the V shape, if you can just squeeze a little bit so it's a tighter V, a more acute angle. Thank you. There you go. Let's see, Sean, is that better?
That's true, angry, 100%. That's what I agree with. I agree with that. They don't
So,
support him how
you
we're
want him
supposed
straight
to support
across?
him. America doesn't.
Okay. I'm not sure what that means. I'm sorry. Thanks for your patience. All right. With that, I've got the timer set for 80 minutes for open dialogue. And of course, as usual, let this be as organic as you guys would like it to be. I'll just jump in if it gets really crazy. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Do you want me to go first, just to get us going?
It's your claim.
Okay.
I do not.
Would you agree that the New Testament not only follows the Old, but incorporates the Old? In other words, to put it differently, that Christianity is the only religion that takes the scriptures of another religion and incorporates it wholesale into its own Bible. True or false?
That's false.
That's false.
Mhm.
So you would prefer to see the Old Testament removed from the Bible?
No. No, it's on I have a different worldview than you do. I see these things as a continuity, whereas you see them as a multitude of covenants. Is that correct?
No,
There's a
I didn't say
covenant.
that. I started out with the
covenant, so-
physical Bible. When I look at my Bible, it's
Mhm.
about 800 pages long.
Okay.
About 2/3 of it is the Old Testament, and the
True.
Old Testament is in the Christian Bible.
That's correct.
Right? The Christians didn't say it's an historical document that we should read in conjunction with our scriptures. It is included in the Christian scriptures. I asked you true or false, and you truly said false, which to me is deeply heretical
Well,
because it implies
wanted that.
that you're saying that the Old Testament does not belong in the Bible.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. So
What are you saying?
to clarify, I'm just saying that I would agree that these things are on a continuity, right? And maybe I misunderstood what you were saying, but now that we have that clarified, I think that these are on a continuity rather
Okay.
than covenantal.
All right. So
It's
they're
not a
they're in a
it's a covenant. It's a
continuity.
covenant. It's a
Would you
promise
agree
that
that
God
the
said.
Old Testament
So,
is no
he's-
less inspired than the New? In other words, it is just as sacred. It's sacred scripture,
Sure.
no
Dinesh is
less
gonna
than the
eat 'em
New, and on the same footing as the New. You agree?
Sure.
Okay. And you agree that the foundations of Christianity are anchored in the Old Testament, by which I mean that Christianity would be inconceivable without Genesis, the account of creation, the Exodus, the Ten Commandments.
Yeah, it would be totally incoherent.
The prophets. You agree?
Yeah, it'd be
all right.
totally-
You,
totally
you agree
incoherent.
that not only is that Jewish scriptures, but it is no less the Christian scriptures.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And do you agree further that when the Pilgrims and then later the American founders in America saw themselves as building a civilization anchored on Athens and Jerusalem, when they spoke about Jerusalem, they were referring to Christianity, the Old Testament, and the New? True or false?
I would say that that's true.
That is true. And therefore, America itself, our own country, is based on these two foundations, including the foundation of Jerusalem. If somehow the foundation of Jerusalem, historically, morally, ethically, were to be kicked out, we would be essentially cutting off our own feet. True or
He's
false?
very anti-biblical.
Well,
Pastor Russell.
just can I ask a clarifying question? So when you say if Jerusalem is kicked out from under our feet, what are you referencing?
I'm referring to the continuous tradition, as you described it, that begins with not just Genesis and Noah and Adam, but then continues with Abraham.
Yeah, you
and
need to have the Old
David.
Testament for there to be a continuity. Yes.
Right. And so
Continuity?
Jerusalem
Like, what is
refers
this,
to
like whole New Age
the
thing?
whole biblical narrative that begins about 2000 BC with Abraham and continues to the Acts of the Apostles, which is about 60 or 70 AD. That whole story is Jerusalem.
Okay.
And I'm saying that that is a core foundation of our civilization. And
So what?
well, what it means is that that as a country,
So honestly, angry. That is actually where the difficulty is for me. But then when I step back and view it in a way of like America, like I think you or somebody else said it was Fence Lizard say, I support America. It's same thing. It's the government stuff. Because here's the thing, even with the people that don't believe that Christ is the Messiah, they still believe in the Torah, right? They still believe in the first 5 books, which is the commandments of the Lord. They just don't believe Christ is the Messiah. So with that said, they're still going to be in a more. I'm using this lightly because the only thing that makes us righteous is the blood and being baptized into the blood in the covenant. But with that said, they practice, and follow the Torah, and believe in it. The first 5 books of the scripture. We don't in America, like as a whole. Like, so the governments are, and that's what's hard for me is like the government with the BB shenanigans, and the government, it gets hard to fully support it. But then it's like, well, people who are there are Jews, there are Israelis there. And then on top of that, the land is actually supposed to be bigger than what they have. So that's where my problem comes in with our involvement with them, is that small piece of land that we got invested in, or that we told them, or however it happened, oh, this is Israel. And actually Israel is supposed to be bigger than that. So that's where my problem comes in with all the governmental stuff with Israel and the United States.
We recognize that we have moral, philosophical, and historical continuities with certain countries, and I would mention 2. Great
So
Britain.
overlapping ethics.
Great Britain, because a lot of the ideas, not only were a lot of the founders coming from Great Britain, but we have had a special relationship with Great Britain that's now extended for many, many years. And it's based on the idea that we've got something in common with these people, even more so than with, say, the Germans or the Norwegians. And therefore, if there's an international crisis, the United States will team up right away with Great Britain as its European sort of, what do you call it, protectorate, and then try to get Great Britain to win over the other European countries. In other words, this special relationship.
So what?
Okay.
Where do we get to the moral obligation here, Dinesh? Great, we've established. Hey, we have a specialist, the most special relationship ever with England, because our ancestors come from England and France.
Right,
I'll happen to note very quickly, the top white demographic inside the United States is German, not English. Just want to point that out.
Fair enough.
Very, very far removed from what it was initially at our foundation. Where do we ever get to the moral obligation?
Okay, so first of all, let me address your German point, because there is a key difference between immigrants and settlers. The British built the country. The Germans came to a good country that the British built. So a settler is the guy who makes the country, makes the system. The immigrant is the guy who moves because he believes it's a really good club that he wants to join. So it doesn't matter how many immigrants have come later. The building of America was done by the settlers. Now, here's my point. With countries as with people, we have a certain, if you're a conservative, you have a certain respect for your own patrimony. It's yours. It's your lineage.
Blood and
it's
soil?
kind of like saying,
wait, are you making a blood and soil? I thought you rejected blood and soil.
I'm making an historical, a moral, and an
didn't you write
intellectual
a book
argument.
where you rejected the entirety of blood and soil? And that's the argument you're making here. Blood and soil.
I'm simply saying.
Do we have a super special relationship with other white people because they're white, Dinesh?
No, because those white people in other parts of the world had nothing to do with America.
Then what the hell are you talking about, dude?
I'm talking about the fact that the British did. I'm talking about that the fact that the Bible is situated in that country and no other. It's not as
what?
So as Christians, this is something that should be important to us. It's evidently not important to you.
Look, let's break a couple things down. Absolutely, it's important.
Okay.
Great. Can we get to the moral op part?
Okay. All right. So now let's turn to the people who live in Israel. Do you agree that the people who live in Israel are Jews?
Yes. Mystery solved.
Okay. And all right. And do you also agree that they are directly in the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? In other words, they come in a sort of historical, religious, and ancestral line from the old Jews. In other words, what I'm saying is,
you mean that particular tribe coming off the 12 tribes that can be traced back?
I'm simply saying that there's a line of continuity in the same way that there's a line of
Listen,
continuity.
I agree. Do you agree
Okay.
that that's the case with Palestinians as well? They come
No.
from the same?
No.
No.
Let's take, for example,
Even though the
Gaza.
ancestral DNA points this out.
No, it doesn't.
It
Let's look at Gaza, for example, which is the heart of our debate. Gaza.
It's
Gaza-
definitely not the heart of our debate.
He's not
Well,
a good. He's not.
I mean, the
debater, dude.
Palestinian
Like this-
debate. The
Andrew-
Palestinian debate right now is not about the West Bank. It's about Gaza. That's where okay.
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is that historically, the people who lived in Gaza are not Palestinians. It is a fakery of the name through history that we call them Palestinians. The people who lived in Gaza were the Philistines. The Philistines were
Philistines,
Europeans.
yeah.
They came from Greece. They came from Cyprus. This is archaeologically definitively established.
Are
And
they
so,
close? Are they more closely related than like Ashkenazi Jews are to the historic people of Israel?
the Philistines have vanished off the pages of history.
That's not the
Philistines-
question that I asked you.
What is your question?
Mike, the question that I asked you is, would it be the case that the modern Palestinian people would have more ancestry in common with the Jews who currently live in Israel than an Ashkenazi Jew would?
This is a little bit debatable because some of the people who are
Oh.
from that region
It's a
of
little bit
Canaan-
debatable,
No,
huh?
well, here's what I'm
I mean,
saying.
ancestry, right?
okay.
You're making it sound like it is 100% of a genetic argument.
Can you
but
answer the question I asked you without obfuscation? Is it the case or not that Ashkenazi Jews generally have less shared ancestry than
I would say-
Palestinians do
I
with
would
the
say.
current Jewish population of Israel?
And I'm
Isn't
saying,
that in fact the case? No, they don't have as much shared ancestry
He's
as the
whole-
Palestinians do who currently live inside of Gaza with the Jews who currently live in Israel.
he
Isn't it
thinks he's
true
all that. That's my
Ashkenazis
pro- I guess
don't
my
have as
problem.
much ancestry?
yeah, but Judaism, hold on. Judaism is a combination. You're acting as if Judaism is purely a function of genetics. Judaism is a function of genetics
No,
plus
you-
history
Okay.
plus religious devotion.
No,
So
Dinesh,
that's what
you
makes
were making
a Jew-
that argument because you say you were making it an argument based on continuity.
If Jews are
but if you
thrown
say the
out-
continuity gets broken the second it is that we have Ashkenazi Jews who still have the right of return to Israel, though it is the case that they are now outside of that continuity, Dinesh, now outside of that people group, Dinesh.
Yeah, and let's look at why they're outside. The Jews are forcibly ejected from their homeland. They scatter all over the world.
Uh-huh.
Unsurprisingly, they settle in London, they settle in Europe, they settle in Africa, they settle in Asia, but they never relinquish their claim to the land. If they had said, all right, we're out of here, you could then say, all right, other people can wander in, can claim it's theirs.
I know,
The
Andrew,
Jews
he
never
doesn't.
gave it up. They were thrown out. Of course, when they settled elsewhere,
And what
there
is
was some
your-
hold on. There was
Okay.
some intermarriage. There was some imports to Judaism by people who converted in. Some people converted out. But the Jewish community as a tribe and as a community remained solidly intact through the centuries. I mean, just read.
Wait, this is hang on.
we're
making a
talking about.
continuity, you're making continuity argument, then breaking continuity. You're making a blood and soil argument, then breaking the idea of blood and soil. You mentioned in the beginning the right of conquest, which is your third criteria. Then you say the Jews got thrown out of Israel, which means somebody else had conquest. That's how they got the land, right?
That's right.
So that's a legitimate way to get the land, right?
That's right. And it was
Okay.
legitimate to take it back by the Crusades. So using the conquest ethic, I agree. The Ottomans captured the land
Okay.
and ruled it for a long time. The Ottomans lost World War II. And so by the same ethic of conquest, they were displaced and it became part of the British mandate.
Uh-huh.
And then the UN basically proposed a partition for now. The point
Hang
is
on, I'm
this.
willing to agree to these facts.
Yeah, with any
I'm not sure how we get to the ought though. When do we get to the ought?
Well, when we say we get to the ought, as Christians, we're trying to do what's right. We're trying to support the people who are on the right side of the issue. And
Well,
you
I don't
seem to
know.
be saying,
hang on.
You can't say that.
When you say Christians, they have to support what's right.
yeah,
You shouldn't say
How do
that.
Christians know what's right?
well, okay. Well, in looking at what's right, we look at historical arguments, moral arguments,
Christian ethics?
spiritual continuity, shared moral principles. We
lose
also look at the fact that America is a force for good or on the good side in the world, and therefore there are bad guys trying to do us in, and their allies are going to be people that we oppose.
Yeah. Okay. So I agree with you in a secular sense that those can be reasons.
Right,
you're-
but secular
hang on,
reasons.
but you're a Christian. We're talking about whether or not
Yeah.
Christians have a moral ought.
Sorry,
Well,
sorry.
What is
Christians
the
are also
specific moral ought a Christian has based on Christian ethics, our paradigm, our worldview, not the secular
He's saying
lens,
our.
not the secular view, the Christian view, why do we have to support a Jewish state that could name Antichrist? Why?
Because first of all, you can't.
So that he. So what Andrew is doing right here is he's, for those who are in the Word, he's showing his lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. He's basically showing his ignorance of not knowing scriptures of what's supposed to happen. That's what Andrew's doing. And he just, oh, I'm Christian, but yet, like, you don't know what's supposed to happen. Like, you don't know that the Jews actually are blinded right now, which was in the scriptures that you're claiming that you know about and care about, that they're blinded. Like, they'll have scales that basically fall off their eyes, and they'll have the revelation. Like, you don't know that? Like, it's strange. Yeah, I mean, there's all these things, the oughts, or the woes, woe unto you. There's all the woes that Israel definitely has, just like there's all the woes unto America. Right? Which America is going to be standing behind the Antichrist as well as the whole world for a time, until the true colors of the Antichrist. Because here's the thing about the Antichrist, and this also shows the lack of ignorance. The Antichrist is going to be love. See, everybody thinks the Antichrist is just like some evil person. It's just going to be dark and weak, evil and mean. The Antichrist is going to be charming, guys and gals. The Antichrist is going to be charming. I mean, some of you ladies on here might actually, who knows? I mean, y'all might think the Antichrist is handsome, cute, charming, all the good stuff. Like, for reals. He's not going to be like this evil person. But people think he's going to be like this. He's not going to portray himself as some evil person. Yeah, see, Fence Lizard said we might think he's handsome. He might woo you. Not woe unto you, but woo. Like, seriously. And then eventually, at the appointed time, right? The true colors of who he is will be revealed to the world. Then the evilness will start, but the evilness was already there. So that's what he's not realizing. He's not realizing a lot, actually. I don't know why he tries to debate for Christians, which is horrible. Only if Christians debated, like if but they don't have the platforms to do it. And then a lot of Christians don't want to because they call it vain arguments and disputes and things like that. But I think they're very beneficial in a lot of ways.
Make up your mind if it's a Jewish state or a secular state. You alternate both based on convenience.
Jewish,
in fact, you alternate it within the same
Jewish.
sentence.
Hang on, ethnic. Don't equivocate. This is pure equivocation. Do you agree with me that there's ethnic Jews and then there are religious Jews?
I agree with that.
Then don't equivocate and say you can't figure out if it's a Jewish state or a secular state, because Dinesh, it can be a secular Jewish state, can't it?
Israel was.
Can it be a secular Jewish state, Dinesh?
Israel
Can
was.
it be a secular Jewish state, Dinesh?
Israel.
Can it be a secular Jewish
Yes,
state?
it is.
Thank you.
Okay, but
I mean, how does it give you a point, Andrew?
I've never denied it's a secular
You
Jewish
just
state.
got done lecturing me about how I called it a Jewish state, then a secular state.
Right,
like
because
that was a
I think
contradiction.
on the one hand, I think you're trying to appeal to anti-Jewish sentiment, and for that,
no,
you need,
anti-Semite.
for that,
One sec, I want to
you
Amen.
need the
Okay,
Jewish
you gotta-
label.
Email me.
I want to
If
give
Israel
Dinesh-
was truly a secular
Email me, OG. You got to fill me in. Praise report. You got to let me know, brother. You got to fill me. Email me. That's awesome. You had a different
state,
experience.
a lot of your antagonism would be diminished. I noticed, for example, you don't have the same hostility to Great Britain, right? Why not? They're a secular state, but they don't have the Jewish label, so you don't get excited. What I'm getting at here is
hang on. You're saying that can you explain to me just real quick?
Yeah.
Does England, by chance, is there a possibility that they're going to name Antichrist in my lifetime, Dinesh?
What do you mean by name Antichrist? What are you
Yeah,
talking
I'm not
about?
talking about naming the Antichrist, but if Jews get together inside of Israel and they name a Messiah, is that going to be Jesus Christ?
Israel is not going to get together and
Yeah,
name
exactly.
a Messiah. What are you talking
What-
about?
Yeah.
You're saying
First
that-
of all, you just said 1 minute ago they're a secular
What?
state. Now you go, what if the secular state names a Messiah?
okay, inside
make any sense to
inside
you?
of Israel, do you agree with me that you have the Temple Institute and you have many Jewish organizations that are indeed willing and support the naming of a new Messiah?
There are
Yeah, the
messianic communities, apocalyptic
Temple
Jewish
Institute.
messianic communities
Uh-huh.
that believe that the rebuilding of the temple is a prelude to the end times. So what?
And no, that's not what I asked you. I
Yeah,
asked you if it is the case that if these right-wing elements inside of Israel, this would be more the right that is doing this than the left-wing elements which are there, which are more secular. If they get together and they do name an antichrist, or I'm sorry, a Messiah, would that Messiah necessarily be Antichrist? Not the Antichrist, but antithetical to Christ because it's a false Messiah.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Then we have established that right now. By the way, do you know how big this movement is in Israel? Could you point,
It's big.
for
It's big
instance,
here in
to
America.
England and say 30% of the population wants to name a new Messiah? No. And by the way,
Well,
hang on,
hold
I just
on.
want to point something else out. When you talk about this, you say anti-Semitism. It's the opposite. I'm telling
It's here in America, but just in a different way, because America is wanting all this to happen. Like, like I said, I think a lot of people in America, especially in the government and other people who are in line with our right-wing governmental stuff, faith stuff, they're wanting this type of stuff to come to pass, right? And so I think it's a lot of self-fulfilled prophecy, which could still be prophecy in some sort of way, because Scripture does say many will be. It could be many are deceived. There will be a great falling away. It warns us about being deceived, which I think that one of the most powerful ways to be deceived is something like this happening, and it doesn't happen according to how people see it. And the reason why I say that, because a lot of people haven't even studied eschatology or even know how the stuff is supposed to happen. So they're just kind of going, oh, well, it's end times, it's end times, it's end times, and God is coming back right now. And if we have this World War III and and Jesus is coming back, and guess what? Jesus doesn't come back. That's going to affect people because no one understands really how this is mapping out. They're just knowing end times and World War III and Jesus. They're not, I mean, they're not even paying attention to what's the word I'm looking for? Here's another example. But what about the two witnesses? Where does that come into play at? Where the world will see them lying in the street for 3.5 days and people are celebrating. Where does that come into play at? And we'll watch them lay in ruins. Where's that come into play at? No one's even thinking about that. Or the series of events of how things happen. A lot of people don't even know about the red heifers. That they're starting to, and how that's supposed to happen. So, and conservative mega Christians aren't going to talk about that because a lot of people don't know. So I think they're trying to self-fulfill a lot of prophecies, thinking, well, this happens, X, Y, Z. The Muslims invade us. Jesus is coming back soon. So there's a lot of stuff that complexities. Let me say complexities to this that he doesn't even understand.
you right now, Jews are safer outside of Israel than inside of Israel,
good night,
and you know
and go.
that that's true. Can you explain to me how it's anti-Semitic for me to point out using logic what's obvious to everybody?
Okay, now explain what you mean. What do you mean when you say Jews are safer outside of Israel? How are they safer?
Yeah, right now, at least in every Western nation, there's not a single Western nation that I can look at where Jews live and have lived for the last 40 years, where they're not safer inside of those nations than they are right now inside of the state of Israel.
You mean because there's a war going on?
Well, not just because there's a war going on, but because there's been a continuation of attacks of terror. In other words, from my view, and while I think this is irrelevant to the debate, I'll bite on it. From my view, it seems to me that Israel has not fulfilled its promise of safety for the Jewish people. It has not done so. And right now, you have more Jews who live outside of Israel than inside of Israel, and they're a lot safer than the Jews who live inside of Israel.
Right.
They are not fulfilling the promise of protecting their people group at all. In fact, they're relying on us to do it for them.
Well, it's a pretty astounding claim when Jews not only have, but to this day are, moving to Israel from all parts of the world, willing to endure the risks and dangers that they face in Israel. And here you are from the kind of comfort of Dallas lecturing Israel on whether it's doing an adequate job protecting the Jews who are voluntarily choosing to come there. There are American
How
Jews
does
who
that
have moved to Israel.
What does that have to do with
And
anything?
there is more
What?
danger for them. The reason that there's more
Yes,
danger.
yes, there is more
Right, but-
danger for them. Yes.
And the reason for that is that Israel is surrounded by Islamic fanatics.
No shit.
Yes, right. Okay.
So, in this
your
really dangerous country surrounded by Islamic fanatics, are they less safe or more safe there than in Western nations,
Yeah.
Dinesh?
and are you and
Answer the question I asked like I've been answering yours. Dinesh, is it the case that these people who are in this desert completely surrounded by Islamic lunatics less safe there than they are in Western nations? Yes or no?
Yeah, they are more safe in Western nations with fewer Islamic fanatics.
Why do I have to beat these things out of you
Because-
when you just agree with me?
Because you are pursuing a tactic of pretending like you're making a point
Yep.
when there is actually no
Points
point
you
to
agree
be made.
with?
If a country
It's
based on a
true.
common identity in their own ancestral homeland it's like saying I have a ranch. I'm
Yeah.
surrounded by outlaws who want to burn down my ranch,
Yeah.
rape my wife, kill my kids, and you go, well, why don't you then give up your homeland, give up your ranch? You're obviously safer if you move somewhere else. And I'm like, no, this actually is my homeland. I have every right to be here. And all I want is the right to fight back against these monsters
But who's-
who also hate you and declare you, America, to be their great Satan. I'm their little Satan.
Yeah, this
and
is
you're
hilarious.
pretending like you're
You're-
doing us a massive favor.
You're giving me or describing all sorts of positions to me that I haven't given, which is hilarious. For one thing, let's use your ranch example.
Okay.
You're absolutely 100,000% correct. I have outlaws. They're all around my little ranch, right? It's my ranch. I got the deed. I'm fighting for that shit. Do I have a right to go over to my neighbor and demand that he help?
No.
No, wait,
No.
what?
Hold on.
Huh?
Hold on.
Wait, what?
Well-
Did you say no?
I said by itself, no. If your
By
ranch,
itself, no.
yeah, if your ranch was encircled and your neighbor's ranch was not imperiled at all, and if your
Then
neighbor
if
had
they
nothing
say-
to do with it,
Yeah.
then you're right. You would be appealing on the basis of like mercy or
Right.
common heritage. You would be in Churchill's position.
Uh-huh.
Because the Nazis had not attacked America. America faced no immediate danger from Hitler, and Churchill basically was reduced to begging. But the United States entered in on the Allied side. Why? Because we have historical, moral, philosophical, even spiritual continuities with Europe, and we came to the aid of Europe for that reason.
More
Now,
like
the
the
Israel
Japanese
situation-
attacked us and blew up our entire Pacific fleet and drug us into a massive war. Did we just forget like a whole big part
I think
of
you've
this?
got. I think you've got your dates all garbled. The
Which-
Germans invaded Poland in 1939,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
The United States, yes, did get into the war in 1947. But the point I'm trying to make,
Wait, what? What?
I'm saying that the American ranch was not
No,
threatened.
no. What did you say before that?
Okay, well, let me put it this way.
Hang on,
Let's-
no, what did you say before that?
The United States.
Hold on. From
The
the, audience,
United
I need you
States
to be
could have
quiet.
fought against Japan and left the Nazis alone.
Oh, I thought before I was getting my dates all mixed up.
No,
And I
you
didn't
were.
know. And then you go like,
No,
oh, wait a
I'm
second.
saying the United States had no reason to fight in the European theater
Uh-huh.
when the attack came
Except
from
that
Japan.
Germany declared war on us.
Germany did declare war on the
Wow.
United States, but
We had no reason to go to war except
Right.
for philosophical
And so-
reasons.
exactly. And so here you have the
Exactly.
Iranian parliament burning the
Yeah.
American flag. Here you have Hamas and Hezbollah declaring that we are their enemy no less than Israel.
Sure.
We are the infidels from the point of view of Islam. But according to you, our ranch is not threatened. I think it is. I think our ranch and their ranch
Uh-huh.
are both in the sights of the bad guys
Mhm.
who have a massive global movement. By the way, they're not content to fight over there.
Hang on. Let me concede a couple of points here. Now we're getting
Okay.
somewhere. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So the first thing is that never conflate my ideas here with the idea that I don't think that Islam is one of the worst, most horrific ideologies known to man, because it is. I argue against it often and all the time.
No one's arguing that.
But you see, I'm a
okay.
true America
No one's
firster,
arguing that,
Dinesh.
Yeah.
Neither of these ideologies needs to overlap Christian ideology at all.
So
So
he-
you talk about how
Seven
this
Lilies. This
country,
is for Seven
this
Lilies.
10 million people are surrounded by enemies.
Seven Lilies. You're in favor of Andrew, that he's part of the what do they call it? What do they call it in Catholicism? I mean, he keeps saying Christian. I mean, F-bomb and everything else, but that's beside the point right now. What is not clergy? What's the gathering? The dude acts like a child. Yeah, he does. What's the gathering? Seven Lilies. What is the gathering? Is it just called church that you guys have on Sunday or whatever day it is? He's part of that. It's not clergy. I thought, yeah, mass. Yeah, that's one. Yeah. He's on your team, Seven Lilies. He's on your team. Okay, that's all I'm saying. He's with you.
Right? Great. I understand. I completely agree. They have the right to defend themselves.
I don't think
Great.
you're as
I
rude as he
completely
is,
agree. Why do we have to go in and defend them, though? You say, well, we have a shared common enemy. I can even grant that that's true. Why is it then that we need to leave that state in Jewish hands if we have to defend it? Why? Why do we have an ought to do that? Why can't we demand Christian immigration to Israel? Why is it that we can't demand, as their protectorate, that we have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Christians move into that area so we can protect our own holy sites, Dinesh? Why not?
Well, number one, 3.8 billion doesn't buy you a whole country. Second of all, we make all kinds of alliances with countries where we don't basically tell them what they should do to their LGBTQ people. We have alliances with Korea, with Japan, with India, with Great Britain. Great Britain is just as LGBTQ as Israel. Our alliance with Israel is based upon mutual defense. It's not based upon supporting gay rights or the Pride Parade in Tel Aviv. No one's saying that we should support that as Christians. We oppose it equally. What I am saying is that
So then where does the ought come in? I still don't understand where the moral obligation or ought actually comes in here. I've
Dinesh
been
is not-
listening. I've been
Dinesh
waiting
is
for
against
it.
scripture.
You have not yet given me you're a Christian and you're a Jew who lives in Israel. And so therefore you have some obligation morally to support you. What is it?
I'm saying that in the
he's saying what the
ensemble
Bible
of
says.
countries where good guys are fighting against bad guys, and let's start with your point. You
I'm
agree
saying
that
so.
Islam is a truly pernicious and evil force,
Don't go there,
no
Dinesh,
less
right now.
here than over there.
I believe
correct?
that both ideologies, both Judaism and Islam, both lead to massive problems because they're both heresies. Both of these
But
heresies, from my
even
view,
heresies are not equal in the
That's
sense
true.
that, hold on,
That's
the
true.
Jews aren't trying to make us Jews. Jews are not in
That's
the
true.
conversion
Jews,
business.
You're right. Jews don't
Okay.
evangelize. I agree
Islam
with that.
is not only trying to dominate
so
us
move on. He said he agreed.
spiritually or religiously, but Islam is the religion of comprehensive law. It covers the whole
Yep.
orbit of life. It tells you how you should sleep and whether you are allowed
Whether
to
you can
fart
own a
when you have
dog.
sex.
Whether you can own a dog. Yeah,
Islam
I know.
Islam is a manual of instructions of life.
Hey, he got
Now,
it,
here's the
Dinesh.
point. And this is, I think, something that's a little hard for us to accept, but it makes a lot of sense. The Israelis know how to fight Islam and radical Islam in a way that we don't. Our
true.
record in fighting radical Islam
We
is
don't know,
abysmal.
obviously.
So's theirs.
Their record in fighting radical Islam is outstanding.
Oh, it is, isn't
Yeah,
it?
and in fact, all the things that
So they
Tucker
wouldn't need our
Carlson
help
complains
with
about
that then, would they?
is
They wouldn't need the help of this nation that's just terrible at
Your-
fighting these crazy Islamists.
Yeah,
They're
obviously
so
we
good
don't
at
know
it,
how
right?
to.
They don't need our help.
Okay, let me put it this
Do
way.
they need our help?
Our debate has nothing to do with giving money to Israel or arms to Israel. Let me ask you this.
Well, then
Yes,
what are we
for him.
supporting?
Well, when
We're just cheering? Yay!
well, no.
What are we doing?
Okay, so when you say that somebody is morally if I were to say to you, you know what? You've got a kid who lives in a really bad neighborhood. A lot of bad guys out to kill your kid. You're morally obligated to support your kid.
Uh-huh.
it doesn't follow that you have to buy your kid a house, buy him a gun. You might practice tough love on the kid. You might tell the kid, you better cut this shit out. You might have all kinds of instructions that the kid will oppose.
Sure.
You will also accept that your interests and the kid's interests will sometimes diverge. So I'm admitting all of this with regard to Israel. I'm simply saying
But hang on.
that the obligation to support is generic. It doesn't specify give them 3.8 billion. Let me ask you this.
Well, hang on. I want to use this
analogy.
I want to use this analogy real quick because let's go back to your analogy. I think it's fine.
Okay.
You say, hey, there's like a mom and her son, or a dad and the son, and they're in a rough
and
neighborhood.
You're saying the son
And
is a heretic. He doesn't go to church.
No. You say, hey, there's a moral obligation for you to like get your son out of this neighborhood, and then you give a bunch of qualifiers. Dinesh says, that means maybe you tell him to stop doing this, or maybe you take this action, or maybe you take that action, or you do, blah, blah, blah. But the whole point of this is to say that there's a moral obligation there with a must, ought, do something in order to prevent this from happening to their son, right?
Right.
Okay, great. What's that with Israel?
So our interests and Israel's interests diverge on many points. Israel would like right now for the United States to go all the way, pulverize Lebanon, have regime change in Iran. Trump is saying no.
Yeah.
This is a recognition where we are saying our interest is the same as yours insofar as pulverizing Iran and breaking its military back. Once we have done that and stopped the nuclear possibilities, we're ready to quit. We're ready to go home. If you want to continue, you can. This
is just gibberish, dude. Where do we get to the moral ought?
Gibberish.
Where do we? You still haven't given me you have a moral obligation like that mom does to move the kid out of that rough neighborhood with all of those bad guys. Wouldn't I just use that analogy and say, okay, great. Then we have an obligation to move 10 million Jews among the Western nations to get them out of the neighborhood of the bad guys?
And that would be your solution?
No, I'm saying if I'm using your analogy for the obligation, wouldn't you say that the mom should move the kid out of the neighborhood?
The analogy was intended to clarify the meaning of what does it mean to have a moral obligation to support. No analogy travels on all fours. So if I say, okay, I'm going to get my kid out of the bad neighborhood, it may be that I decide, okay, the kid can stay there, but I need to help with providing security. Or I need to make sure that, I go visit every week to make sure that the apartment isn't being wrecked.
But where does the moral obligation here come in for the United States, sovereign nation, and the Christians inside of it specifically? That's what we're talking about. The Christians. Where does their obligation come in to help the Jews in Israel do fucking anything? Where's the obligation for that? Where?
Well,
what?
Do you agree that the Iranian regime and the forces of Islam in the region are evil?
Sure.
Okay.
I believe that their ideology
is evil. And would you agree that Israel, in fighting to change, clean up, remake, transform the Middle East and produce... Hold on.
Hang on. I got to clarify one thing. Just the terms. When you say evil, for me, evil, the doing of evil would be moving away from participating in the energies of God and Jesus Christ. That's how I would differentiate what evil is from good. Good would be participating in those energies. So when you say the ideology of Islam, you don't believe Arabs are evil, right?
No.
You believe Islam, the ideology is evil, right?
Right.
Okay, Jews, from my perspective, that ideology is also evil.
Right, but I think we're talking about evil in two completely different senses. There is a sense in which heresy is evil, right? Because it departs from the theological straight path. In fact, orthodoxy means a straight path. Heresy means a deviation.
Sure.
We're talking about evil in a more natural law sense, by which I mean
I don't believe in natural law.
You don't believe in natural law?
No.
Okay. Do you believe in the Ten Commandments?
I'm not a natural law proponent because I'm not a Catholic. Sure, the Ten Commandments are fine.
Do you believe that do you believe that to take a 5-year-old kid and forcibly transition that kid is evil?
Of course.
Okay. Now, is that the same as the kind of evil that you were describing when you were talking about Christian heresy? I mean, in other words, Judaism is a heresy, and that's one type of evil. I'm saying there's another type of evil.
I just want to make sure
murder is evil.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I got it right. So when you're making the differentiation, you're saying this is evil and this is evil and this is a lesser evil than this one.
I'm saying that this is a force for good in combating this evil.
Yeah, but you're still saying both are evil.
Well,
if you're
I'm
saying both are evils, you want us to support the lesser evil.
Well, I certainly do believe that. There are many cases of supporting the lesser
Then
evil.
aren't you admitting Jewish ideology is evil?
Well, I'm admitting that Jewish theology is a heresy, or at least
is evil.
It's evil in its rejection of Christianity. I agree
Great.
with that. Theologically, of
Perfect.
course. But that's,
So you're just saying support evil to stop evil.
No.
Support evil and to stop evil. Perfect.
So the man who insisted that Israel is a secular state makes a convenient switcheroo and is now making Israel a theological state, which is out of sync with Christianity. Go one way or the other. You're trapped on your own.
Actually, perfect. I love this trap.
Okay.
Is secular ethics evil?
There's 3 different photos.
Yes.
Of this.
Oh, yes. Oh, shit.
There's 3 different photos of the alleged suspect for the fires. So one is this guy that I showed earlier. Him. Sorry, I had to. And then there is okay, maybe this is the same dude. I can't. Oh, goodness. So I guess this is him. And then, okay, then this guy, which I think is the same person. It is the same person. Yeah. And then I think there's some more footage of him. And then somebody said that guy. This is Idaho Tribune. They're saying this person. So and then you have this one from the top, which is the bald head. So it could be the Asian looking dude. So he is allegedly accused of setting the old trails fire. So there is still the other 2, which it may not be that they were actually set by someone. Was recently released from prison in Arizona after serving 10 years for manslaughter on first degree arson related to the old. Okay, so JR got that covered. I've been on here since it got released, but I did say it to you guys at the top of my show. I saw the clip, which was only put up 8 minutes before. And I think it was an independent journalist that actually posted it first, because mainstream media there posted it 37 minutes ago. So kudos to you independent people who got it out before mainstream media. That's what I'm talking about. We do have value. Just saying.
You got me.
Wow. we have had secular ethics in the world for about 500 years at least.
Right?
And we have secular ethics that dominate this country right now. Would you say that the United States right now is evil?
I would say that the secularists who are in charge of it are fucking evil.
Okay. But
evil fucking bastards.
But notice that when it comes to Israel, you foist the evil on the nation. When it comes to America, you're pro-American, your 4th of July, your 250th anniversary, you're America, rah, 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 but there are these bad secular people in the country. You're against them, but you're not anti-American, are you?
Perfect. Let's use this exact same analogy.
Okay.
We'll use the exact same analogy back the other way. Right here in the United States, there's tons and tons and tons of Christians. They're not evil, right? We don't consider them evil. They're not evil. Trinitarian Christians are not evil. You don't believe it? I don't believe it. Great. That's not an evil ideology. The secularists in charge of the United States are evil bastards with an evil ideology. You agree. Let's move it over to Israel. Same analogy. If you have a Jewish state, the secular Jews, evil ideology. The Jewish theology, which also exists there, evil ideology. So both of these that we're combating are evil ideologies. You want us to support both of those evil ideologies to take out another evil ideology. When right here, we have an evil ideology we're combating in our own nation in order to support the ideology which isn't evil, Christianity.
Now,
Perfect.
Now, Now,
No.
it is a fact of the world, and it is a fact of the Bible, that many figures, nations, evil in themselves, are nevertheless A, on the side of good, or B, the chosen instruments of God. God will frequently use not only flawed, but downright evil people. God talks in the Bible about the fact that the Assyrians, monsters, pagans, are, quote, the rod of my justice.
Yes,
God is
uses
using
evil
the
to do good.
Assyrians.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
So why isn't he
Okay.
going to use the
And
Muslims
this is
to do
also
good
true
then?
of individuals. All the things that you talk about that are bad in Israel today were going on in the Old Testament. The
Yeah, but-
worshiping of the golden calf, all kinds of
Yeah, but
sexual
do you
immorality.
understand why this is illogical?
Here's why. Because you're drawing the fallacious conclusion that somehow if the Jews are secular, if they have LGBTQ rallies, somehow they have ceased to be the people of God. They are no longer sort of real Jews. They are now secularists. They are outside our area of moral concern. And I'm simply suggesting that the God of the Bible takes the opposite view. Never once does God say, you know what, you Jews, because you worship the golden calf, I'm taking back all my promises to Abraham. Give me the land back because I never gave it to you unconditionally. I gave it to you conditionally, handed back over. Does God ever say that in the Bible?
He just punishes them. No, I'm not making that claim.
And Israel has been punished.
You're just putting words in my mouth. Again, back to the ethical claim. None of this even matters. It's completely irrelevant to what you're even talking about.
Why is it irrelevant?
I'll tell you why. This is hilarious.
You think the character of God is irrelevant to our discussion of good and evil?
You made the claim that God will use evil for good. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, great. You agree with that. Then why do we assume that he's going to use the evil ideology of the Jew for good, but not the Muslim?
Well, God may well.
Hang on.
Yeah.
I want to repeat that question because I want you to answer it.
I'm answering it.
Why should we assume that it's only Jewish people who we both agree hold an evil ideology instead of Muslims who we agree hold an evil ideology that God won't use them for good? Why do we just instantly assume it's only going to use Jewish people for good?
Well, number one, we are fallible people in the world. So we have to look and make judgments. It is possible to argue, for example, someone might say, due to the fact that America has become like Sodom and Gomorrah, God used 9/11 as a form of divine punishment on America, right? You could make that argument.
Yeah.
It's a very speculative type of argument.
I agree.
Yeah. And so I
is the argument that God's going to use Jews to do good.
In theory, it's not impossible.
Speculative. That's a speculative argument to say God's going to use this evil ideology to do good. That's your argument.
So my argument was not, quote, God is using the Jews who are evil to do good. My argument was a refutation. Hold on. Let's be really clear.
Okay.
You basically were saying these are bad people and they are outside of God's purposes. And I said many times God uses people, even people who have completely rejected him, as his instruments for his divine purposes.
Like Muslims.
He's done it repeatedly. Now,
like Muslims?
Now, I don't deny that in principle, God could use the Indians, the Muslims, the Chinese.
Yeah.
Yes, God can use those
That's
people.
the whole point, man. You just are defaulting for some reason to say only this specific people group who I think holds an evil ideology, which you did say, that people group God's going to use for good. These other people groups. So you're asking us to pick. You're asking us to pick an interest between two evil ideologies. Pick and choose which.
God is going to use all of it for good. He says that he creates evil. The Lord God Almighty, he creates good and he creates evil. He's going to use it all for the glory of God. And if Pastor Russell was in here, he'd say, yep. He'd say, he is right. Serious. It's all going to work together. Biden was used for God. Trump is used for God. Yes, DM it to me. Do that, please. Yeah, God's going to use it all. The good, the evil, the righteous, unrighteous, all of it. It's all going to play out for real, for reals. So, I mean, yeah. So whatever, and that's part of it. I mean, yeah. I mean, you don't think God knows what's going on? You don't think? I mean, God already said, "Hey, y'all are blinded. Y'all didn't believe in me. Y'all didn't have faith in me. Y'all are blinded. You guys won't see until the end." My promise is still with Israel. Is my chosen people, right? His people, chosen people. See, and that's what's funny because you know what MAGA does, which is crazy. They use this one verse out of context. So out of context. It's the one that they all use. I think even Trump's used a lot. If my people will turn from their ways, yada yada yada, and hear and repent and turn to me and all that. That was said to Israel. That actually was said to Israel in the Old Testament. It wasn't said to us Gentiles dogs. It wasn't said as to America. It wasn't said to outsiders, although the principle could apply as far as repenting. But it was said to Israel, if my people, Israel is God's chosen people. That verse is specifically, historically, and contextually written for Israel. If my people shall humble and hear my voice and turn from their wicked ways, I will heal their land. It's the one that all the patriots have used for the past 8 years. Not intended for us. Go to the New Testament. That's intended for us. And it's not to say that once we're in the New Testament that we don't look at the Old Testament and say, oh, okay, yep, God has standards, God has ways. This is what he was calling his people, which now we are grafted in to, right? So, but the patriots and love to use that verse. Whatever, I think it's like Jeremiah or something. My people, no.
Which ideology we prefer, because you think that God's going to prefer that we prefer one of those evil ideologies.
Well,
Dinesh.
first of all,
that's the reduction of your logic.
First of all, you're arguing as if there is no connection between God the Father. I mean, if you look at the Christian Bible, you could almost say that
Magic Jew blood.
Hold on. You could almost say that the Old Testament is the biography of God the Father, the Gospels are the biography of God the Son, and the Acts are the biography of God the Holy Spirit. This is the Trinity right there. And this is the historical unfolding of the Trinity in the Christian story. And now you're pretending like there is no relationship between Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, God the Father, and the Jews?
Are you pretending that there's no relationship between God the Father and Christians?
Yes. No, I'm saying. I'm saying.
That's really what's hilarious here.
No, I'm saying.
We can break it down. Hang on, we'll break it down. I'll break it down with you. I'll go right along with you.
Would you
Jews
agree?
have magic Jew blood? Yes or no?
Have what?
Magic Jew blood, so they're preferred by God?
See,
well, God isn't picking based on magic Jew blood. God is picking based upon a particular community that is built around a set. Hold on, on a set of divine instructions, rights, laws, commandments.
Does this
prophets.
particular community have a specific DNA by chance?
Sure.
Got it. So, and we could trace that through their blood, right? So you would basically just say that people who have this particular blood are favored by God.
Well, no more. I mean, you could make the same argument about Christians. Christians have DNA.
Exactly. So, and I would make the argument, I would make that exact argument about Christians. What's kind of hilarious here, as we're kind of moving through this, we're finding out that, one, you still have no moral lot for why it is that Christians are supposed to support Jews or Israel. I haven't heard a single argument.
Well, that's because
not one. And by the way,
that's because you're setting a standard where I am a Christian monk sitting on a sacred pillar in the Himalayas, and you're now asking me, give me a reason to support Israel.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Christians living in the world, where we recognize that in the world, there's a lot of admixture of good and evil. And there might be good people in an Islamic world, but the Islamic ideology is bad. There might be good people in
Jewish
Iran
ideology
right
is
now.
Also bad by your own admission.
Jewish theology is bad. Judaism isn't, quote, an ideology. Judaism is a theology, and I agree.
Where do you get your ideology from?
Well,
your theology.
What
you
I was
know
getting
who said
at,
that? You in your book.
Well,
You
said-
in your own book said
I
that.
said a little minute ago, and you agreed that Islam is a comprehensive ideology that includes family law, divorce, honor killing, Sharia. Judaism is not an ideology in that sense. It is not trying to create a sort of comprehensive supervision over the world.
Except
Islam
its own
is.
state? Its own state?
It doesn't
with its
do
own
it in
laws?
Israel. Israel doesn't have. When is the last time you heard, for example, of Jews being stoned for adultery, like in the Old Testament?
Oh,
Happens
not
all the
in
time.
forever. Not in forever.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
So, in other words, there's a big difference. In Islam, you still do get stoned. You
Yeah,
get thrown
sure.
out of windows.
Sure.
You get killed by your own family members. You get killed for leaving
But
the religion.
nobody's making a dispute there. The dispute that we have is whether or not
Yeah, and so the
Christians
point I
have
was
any
making-
obligation to morally
Okay.
to support Israel
All
or
right.
support Jews who you, by your own admission, you say is an evil ideology.
And I was saying that Israel, in against that ideology, is doing a lot of good. If there's a ring of pedophiles and a cop decides, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to beat the shit out of all these people and I'm going to save all these kids, you go, wait a minute, isn't the cop a Jew? And I'm like, yeah. And you're like, well, isn't
What?
he a heretic? Doesn't he have the wrong ideology? Shouldn't we be rejecting him as much as the pedophiles? Dinesh, why are you making arguments for the lesser evil?
This is backwards. It would be like
How is it backwards?
like-
I'm saying
it
that
would be
Israel.
like a cop who was also a pedophile beat the shit out of 10 pedophiles.
How is the cop?
And I'm like, oh, okay, that's
We just
right on,
agree.
pedophile cop who beat.
Wait
up
a minute.
pedophile. Like, what are you talking about?
so
It's like an evil
pedophilia.
ideology. You make me want to pick and choose, but why? Why should I support either? Why should I support either? Why?
Right. So because the cop is a drunk and he insults his wife and he got divorced and he has a mistress,
Uh-huh.
we're not going to support him in his campaign against the pedophiles because he's no better than the pedophiles because they're both evil, according to you.
No, you're taking. So if you want to take the extremes there, we can actually do that, and we can look at that.
Why is
same-
it an extreme?
we can-
Let's
Sure,
look.
sure. Hang on. We'll look.
So
at, we'll look at the
pedophilia
same logic. We'll look,
Is Sharia.
yeah. Hang on. hang on.
Pedophilia equals Sharia. It's the comprehensive
Yeah.
Islamic law.
Are you
The
going to
Jew-
use your national resource or your resources? Let's just use your same example. We'll
Okay.
use the example of the drunk.
Yeah.
He's a drunk, and we're all morally against drunkenness. Let's say. I mean, I'm
Not me, but
I'm not,
perhaps you
but-
are.
But let's just say in this
Yeah.
hypothetical that you are. So the drunk cop comes in, he beats up all the pedophiles, and we go, right on, man. You beat up these pedophiles, that's great. And what you're doing is a lesser evil, because we assume in this analogy that drunkenness is evil, right?
Exactly.
Now, are we going to give this guy any resources to go get beer?
Yes, if he did a good job, I would give him
That's
some
it.
resources.
So you're gonna,
I
you're
would.
gonna, so you're gonna support, a thing you consider to be evil.
No, I'm not. I'm not supporting the evil. I mean, if you ask me, if I was
Then what
gonna-
makes him evil? What makes the drunk evil in
well,
this
what
analogy?
I'm
then?
getting at is that the cop who did this deserves a medal. If you ask me, are we morally obligated to support
Yeah,
cops
great.
who are
Give him a
kicking
medal.
the ass
Here,
of pedophiles?
we'll go
my
over every
answer is
time-
yes.
every
And
time
it
a
has
Jewish
nothing
person,
to do with what their
Yeah.
private lives are like and whether this is like
Oh,
you
this
know,
is great.
yeah. So what I'm getting at is you agree. Let's talk about what we agreed. You agreed that Islam represents a kind of comprehensive evil. You agreed that because that is the case.
No, I agree. Both of these ideologies
I-
encompass
and now they.
an evil.
So you would say, for example, that Judaism poses the same menace, for example, to Western civilization, to your and my religious freedom, to taking over America that
Mhm.
say Islam does.
I would say that the embrace of secular Jews and that being a part of the extension of the ideology of Judaism, exactly because they don't have the same formations that you just explained Islam does create an existential threat of progressive liberal ideology all the time, including in their own nation, Israel. And I do consider that to be the existential threat of humanity right this second. Progressivism is the worst threat to planet Earth right now,
I agree.
even above
now.
Islam for now.
I agree. See, okay, so this is why debates like this are good. I would argue that the primary authors of Western secularism are, well, if I had to name a single religious group, it would have to be the Episcopalians. Why? Because where is progressivism the most ensconced in America? The
You're welcome,
answer is
Vince
in the
Lizard. Have a
Northeast.
good
That's why
night.
the guy from Maine stood up in the beginning and said, Maine has been ruined. It hasn't been ruined by Jews, by the way. It's been ruined by
So-
white, Protestant, Anglicans for the
Agreed.
most part, but Unitarians. Okay.
So these heresies lead to bad outcomes
Right.
due to the fact that they push in secular idea. But just like you would make the claim, and I would agree with you, that many Protestant ideologies, especially out east, which is where it landed first, right? What we end up seeing is that they push in progressive value structures. The problem that you have with Judaism is it does the same thing. It often pushes for secular ethics, secular values, due to the fact that it does not evangelize nor have these same foundations
Okay,
you're
so-
criticizing Islam for.
Right, but it's not because
Is that
of,
true though?
No, because
No,
because
it is too
because
true.
you are blaming. Look, let's put it this way: with the Christians, you're saying that the deviation comes from departing from Christianity. So you would say, well, these Unitarians aren't really Christian.
Didn't
These-
Jews depart from Christianity?
No.
Judaism?
No.
Yes.
Hold on. Of course, Judy. Of
The
course,
main part of Christianity
no,
called
no, no.
Christ?
the analogy we were making is as follows. You are saying
Yeah.
that secular Judaism is the fault of Judaism. That's why you said
Yes.
Judaism produces this.
Yes.
But
Yes, I
secular-
am. In fact,
Right.
it's just like I'm saying that this Protestants who have bad theology, that leads to a secular ideology,
Okay.
provably.
And let me ask
That's
you
what
this.
we saw with Judaism. Its same foundational heresy leads to secular values and progressivism. All we have to do is look at the state they're currently
Oh.
in that they founded, and what do you see?
There is
Dinesh, honestly, is it a progressive state or not?
shalom.
It is a progressive state, but so is America.
There's not
And
two
what I'm
heavens.
getting at
And
here
America's
is
founded
that
by Protestants
what
who
I'm
are in
getting at
heresy.
is-
Exactly.
why does Judaism have to
So there is not two heavens. So you guys are. Did you love birds up there get this worked out? Seven lilies, Zeth, and angry. If the Jews have the magic blood, what's the point of Christianity? Well, Christianity, first of all, Christianity, it was an insult for people who followed Christ, and they said, "Oh, look at those Christians." Kind of like, and then at some point, people ran with it. Oh, it's Christians. We're Christians, and it's a good thing. It was actually the secular people, the people who were against Christ, that actually made up the Christian word, which is amazing that people still don't understand that. It was a mockery, and it became Christians. But there is no Jew heaven and Gentile heaven. No, there's one kingdom, there's one church, there's one body. The Jews will be a part of that body, or we are a part of that body because we are grafted into that body that Jesus will redeem, because the fact that it's his people. He was a Jew, Nazarite. And so we were drafted in because of the New Testament covenant, right? And the Old Testament covenant points to the New Testament covenant, but it was still under two different covenants and dispensations. Even the thief on the cross, and people are like, "Oh, the thief on the cross." It was a different dispensation. The church, the body of Christ, the church wasn't even started when the thief on the cross said that. "You'll be with me in the day of paradise." And so people always go, "Oh, look at the thief on the cross." It was a different dispensation. And then at the same time, since that was God manifested on the flesh on the cross, I think he probably had the right to show grace to who he wanted to show grace to at that particular time. So it's kind of like one of those things. Oh, what about a deathbed experience or deathbed conversion? It was two different things. And honestly, I probably wouldn't take the route of the thief on the cross. Wait till your last minute. Say, okay, now I want to believe, and I believe in Jesus. Because again, that was an exception, and you can't roll. It's kind of like everything else. It's like the whole Jesus turning water into wine thing, and people run with it. Oh, Jesus turned water into wine, so he didn't have no problem with it. That was his very first miracle that he did, to show people who he was, like the power that he had, like that he could actually do miracles. That's all that was for. That is all that was for. Everything that he did, every sort of miracle that he did, was just to establish who he was. So, like, basically, let me flex my muscles. Yes, I'm Hulk Hogan. I got 24-inch pythons. Let me just flex them right quick. That's half of what Christ was doing by the miracles. He was setting an example of who he is. That's most of the stuff. And then people run with it. Oh, he ate with sinners. It was for a reason. And most people don't even know the reason why he did it. Most people do, oh, he sat with sinners and, he was a friend of sinners. And yeah, and he was accused. And he also did it for a reason. Yes, none of this answers the basic question. Why are we morally supporting religion that believes we are all doomed to hell? Because it's not about supporting a religion. It's about supporting what the Lord said. It's not about a religion. It's not about supporting a religion. It's about supporting the people that God said to support. These are my people, my chosen people. Here's what I'm doing. Here's my masterpiece. Don't turn against them because they are blinded right now, but there's coming a time when they will return back to me. So why be against these people? I'm not saying all of them because that I don't think BB is, okay? But there are people in Israel who are Israeli people, bloodline XYZ, that will return back to him because of the promise, because of the covenant. That's what this is about. There's where the moral obligation, biblical moral obligation is to. And that is a land which actually, again, the land is actually bigger than what is given to them from the United States. It's actually bigger. So we should actually be supporting not only that land, but much more that's actually technically and truthfully and biblically, historically, bigger than that, because the actual land is actually the land of Canaan, which encompasses a lot more to the north, a lot further to the north. And if you look at old historical maps, you'll see what the land of Canaan is. It's much bigger than this little sliver of Israel that we say, okay, well, this is your guys' little land. It's much more bigger. In Palestine, where actually what Dinesh said, it was the Philistines. That's what actually it was. They were Philistines. So this whole Palestinian thing isn't like, it's not true, because it was actually Philistines, the Philistines. And so, yes, they have blinders on, they have a veil over them, and it will be revealed who the Lord is when the time is right. And so that's the moral obligation we have to that, because that's like saying, okay, well, Jesus, you're a Jew, because technically in this side of heaven and his flesh was a Jew. Oh, but we're against you. Yeah, might want to be careful. Right? Yes, the government, 100%. But I'm against the U.S. government. I don't like what they're doing. Right? So.
Will count for secularism as a fault of Judaism, but Christianity suffers no blame, no responsibility, no inherent objection by the fact
Protestantism does. You just gave an accounting of it. You just said Protestants hit out east. When you have all these different Protestant heretical sects out east, that led to a progressive ideology. I said, yeah, I agree.
Hold on one sec. Hey, Sean, I think the mic, we might have lost Andrew's mic.
Testing.
Okay.
I think we got
We're
it.
good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I say I agree. The Protestant ideology led to progressive values. Somehow, though, when it comes to another heresy you agree was a heresy, which also led to huge progressive values in a state you just got done saying is progressive, that has nothing to do with Jews.
because
That has nothing to do with Jews. It has nothing to do
I didn't
with,
say it has nothing to do with Jews. I
it
said
has to do with
nothing
Judaism being a heresy,
I
man.
said it has nothing to do with Judaism, just like I would say the same, that in the case of the Northeast, the progressivism comes out of a rebellion against Christianity. Now, what
Like
the left- hold on.
Judaism? Like
It's a
Judaism?
rebellion against Judaism, whereas you're presenting it as a manifestation of it.
Wait, say that again?
I'm
What?
saying that the secularism in Israel is a result of a rebellion against Judaism, not a manifestation of it. You are maintaining that
It's a
Judaism,
rebellion against Christianity. The reason that these people groups become so ensconced in progressive ideology is because they reject Jesus Christ as their foundation. That is Islam, that is Judaism, and from my view, that is also many sects of Protestantism, which are non-Trinitarian. The reason they have to adopt those things is because the theology is so bad, they have to fill in the gaps with other
All right.
things.
So what we're saying here, and this is a point of agreement, we are dealing with a menacing radical secularism that has developed in the world and in the West.
Yes.
Good night,
The West invented it. The
Corey.
Jews did not
Good night.
invent it.
God bless
Its
you, brother.
authors.
Protestants didn't invent it
Well,
either.
was Charles Darwin a Jew?
Yeah,
You
but
know, was
Protestants
Nietzsche
didn't-
a
the
Jew?
Protestant
Was Heidegger a
Reformation-
Jew?
The Protestant Reformation paved the way for progressive ethics. I agree with that.
I agree with it
But
too.
it happened before the great thinkers of progressive enlightenment. The Protestant Reformation paved the way, but it happened before these things came to fruition. By the way, many of these Protestant heresies are considered by both Catholics and Orthodox to be Judaizing
it has-
heresies for a reason. Same reason that we consider
I don't think
Jews to be
here's the-
heretics. not
here's the okay, so when we say Judaism, what exactly are we referring to? Because I don't think it has to do anything with Judaism itself, because Judaism basically comes from the tribe of Judah. That's what Judaism comes from, right? Judaism is religion, right? The religion aspect of it. It doesn't. So that's the problem. You have Judaism that's mixed in with Israel, which is descendants of Israel, right? Of Jacob. So descendants of Jacob, because Jacob's name is Israel. So descendants of Israel, descendants of Abraham, Israel, right? Jacob became Israel. So his descendants are Israel, right? He was part of the tribe of Judea. So you have a twofold thing going on, right? But even though you have the twofold thing going on, Israel, the descendants, the people, which became Canaan, the land of Israel, right? And I understand. I'm not like trying to grill anybody or set anybody straight, because it is very a complicated, topic, and how to break all this type of stuff down. But that's what we are commanded to by Scripture to be behind, and that's what we are grafted into. Now, with that said, Judaism, or the practices of Judaism, if you want to say, of Old Testament ways, isn't necessarily sin. If you want to say because Jesus himself said, I didn't come to do away with all the laws. I came to fulfill them, because he was perfect. So him being a Jew still fulfilled and did all the stuff that the Jews were doing in that time. And he didn't say, okay, why this doesn't mean nothing no more. He said, I did not come to do away with them. I came to fulfill them, because he was a perfect one. He could fulfill them to the T, where the Pharisees could not fulfill them completely. Even though the Pharisees were preaching the correct things, Jesus never got mad at the Pharisees for preaching the right things. He was saying, you're preaching this stuff, but you yourself can't even do it. So here I am to show you how to say it and also do what I'm saying. So a lot of people say, oh, Jesus was against the Pharisees. He wasn't completely against. He was not completely against the Pharisees and what they were saying, because what the Pharisees were saying were true. They were practicing to the best of their ability, right? But you still missed the mark because of your humanity. But to the best of their ability, they were practicing the way. So where they got it wrong was that once they saw Jesus arrive on the scene and him saying who he is, they're saying blasphemy. So they're rejecting Christ. They're saying, no, you're not. We don't believe you. Off with your head, XYZ. So that's where a lot of their problem came from, because they were denying who he was. That's why Nicodemus went to him privately at night, who was a Pharisee. John 3:16, all that whole good stuff, where it talks about how to be born again, because that's the first thing that Nicodemus said to Jesus. Well, how can a man be born again? And Jesus said, a man can be born again by water and spirit. well, I can't enter my mom, I can't go back into the womb and be born again. That's what, and then Jesus said that's why it's called born again. So that was Nicodemus, a Pharisee, went to him privately at night. That's what the whole John 3:16 is about. That everybody loves to quote, for God so loved the world. So that's what that was about. It was Nicodemus. So it's not that he was against. It's not that Jesus was against like what they were doing, because he was a Jew. So he did have that stuff, right? He did have it, but they were doing things and putting these things upon people, yet themselves could not do. They couldn't do the laws and the rules and keep them their own selves, but were commanding others to do the same things. Was Jesus like, okay, I can do it, right? And you can do it through me, because when I leave, here's my spirit to help you and guide you. Whoa, but you're not the Messiah. So no, we can't do it through you. We don't believe in you. So yeah, that's why I said it's a complicated thing to understand all of it. It is.
Ethnic Jews. Remember, I'm making the distinction now between people who believe in Judaism theologically versus people who are just ethnic Jews. I don't have any problem with Arabs, and I don't have any problem with ethnic Jews. That has nothing to do with anything.
Right.
My point is, you can't look me in the eye and say that Protestant heresies led to the embrace of progressive ideology, but that Jewish heresies don't. And I can prove it to you. If you reject Jesus Christ, who is the source of all truth, what do you end up with? What do you end up with?
Let me say that even here in America, over the past 30 years,
this is not an answer to my question.
It is an answer. It is an answer.
No, it's not.
I have had a fair amount of experience with Orthodox Jews who have been fans of mine. They come up to me at events. Now, why are they fans of mine? They socially, politically, morally, they are to the right of me. They are totally against abortion. They are totally against LGBTQ.
So are Muslims.
And not only do they say it, they actually live it.
So do Muslims.
Hold on. So are the Muslims, correct. But what I'm getting at is that to argue that Judaism is itself responsible for secularism is stupid, because the most religious Jews are not secular at all.
Great.
They
then to argue that, look, let me
on
show
the
you
moral
how,
issues.
I'm going to show you how stupid this is. Then to argue that Protestantism is responsible for progressivism is stupid, because out in the hallway I met some Protestants and they were really fucking based.
No. Hold on.
That is literally the stupidest thing you've said tonight out of many stupid things. No,
this is pure sophistry.
Not sophistry.
Well, let me tell you why. Because what you do with an analogy is you misstate the analogy. If you could find me a group of devout evangelical Christians and say, these devout evangelical Christians who go to church on Wednesday, they go to church on Sunday, they are really into it and serious about their faith, but they happen to also support trans surgeries, they support abortion, I would be shocked, because I would say no. If someone is devout and serious about their faith, they're not going to support those things. They're going to be solid on the moral issues.
So Episcopalians are not solid in their faith?
So I just told you that Orthodox Jews are very solid on the moral issues, and they are not part of secular degeneracy.
Yeah, but this is crazy.
And then you switch the analogy and give me a generic Protestants.
I'm going to repeat it to you verbatim to make sure I got it right before I respond.
Okay.
I'm going to steel man the position, and so that there's no doubt this is not a straw man.
Okay.
You are saying to me, there are Orthodox Jews who are just super based, Andrew. They don't like abortion. They don't like LGBTQ. They don't like any of that degenerate stuff. Right?
Right.
Okay. Can we agree that there's lots and lots of Protestants, including Episcopalians, who you say are responsible for the current state of progressive Enlightenment principles being enacted in this nation, who are super based and also don't like abortion, and they also don't like LGBTQ. They don't like any of that. True or false?
Yeah, and those Protestants, those Protestants fall into the Assemblies of God. They fall into the Baptist denominations, very different from the Unitarians, the Anglicans, the Presbyterians, and the Methodists. I mean, the reason
But you just got done saying, though, now you're in contradiction.
I'm saying that
the second you say Episcopalians are responsible for this, but not some Episcopalians, You're making the same argument with the exception that I would. You're right. Judaism is also a heresy, therefore responsible for the integration of progressive values, especially in Israel, but not all of them. Great. What the hell have we established here? Except that heresies lead to progressive ideology across the board, which is why the church has always been against them.
Heresies should be rejected theologically,
Yes.
but it's possible in a decent
When-
society to make moral.
When did Dinesh say that to you? I remember Dinesh telling me we have to support Israel because they are the only state that allows pride parades. That's weird. Because they're the only state that allows pride parades. When did he say that? To you, like specifically? No, he didn't. Only state in the Middle East. So we have to support them because they're the only state that supports pride parades? What? Did he say it to you personally? He didn't say it to me. Maybe he knew. He might have knew.
Alliances with people who are heretics but agree with us on certain moral issues.
Agreed.
And so you could find someone in America right now who's an atheist, but they don't think that kids should be killed in the womb. They don't support
true.
euthanasia or infanticide. They don't support trans surgeries. And you would say, guess what? You know what, buddy? You're on the right side. Now, are you going to heaven?
Conservative.
No. Theologically, you are on the outside.
But is it immoral not to support
Just
them?
making
Is it
sure.
immoral not to support
Just
them?
making sure.
What I'm saying
Is it immoral not to support that same group you just said we could make an alliance with if we so chose? Would it be immoral for us not to?
It would be immoral to reject them when they want to be in alliance with you on the side of good. It would be like the pro-life movement deciding that anybody who's going to hell cannot be allowed in the pro-life movement.
Mhm.
It would be wrong and immoral to do that because these are allies on a good cause. It doesn't matter if they have bad opinions on their socialists and other things. You don't support them in the socialism, but you support them in the area that they are on the side of good.
Got it.
And that's what I'm saying about Israel.
And this makes complete and total sense to me. So if I'm breaking down your position
Okay.
and I'm getting it totally correct, you're saying that if it is the case that, let's say there's a group of atheists who oppose abortion, you're not going to reject that help because the greater good is to stop abortion.
You would not reject their help in the pro-life cause. Correct.
Right.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So it would actually be immoral in that context to reject that help.
Correct.
Got it. Now let's get an equivalent analogy
Yes.
for how it is that if we decide that we're not going to send billions of dollars to Israel, we're not going to send a single soldier over to help them at any time because the United States electorate doesn't want it. And if it is the case that we no longer want any Israeli influence in our government whatsoever, why would that be immoral?
Well, it would be a wrong decision, both tactically.
Why would it be immoral?
It would be immoral because what we are ultimately doing is we are taking an ally that is on our side and is kicking the ass of the bad guys in a very dangerous
They're
neighborhood.
all bad guys.
No, they're not all bad guys on this issue. The Islamic project is global caliphate. There's no equivalent Jewish project to that. The Jews are fighting that, and they're doing it with great effectiveness.
So then tell me this. Let's just
So
pretend.
in other words,
I'll
I'm
grant
not
it.
saying that we have democratically, we could decide by the majority of people saying we don't want to have anything to do with it.
Let's dive right in.
And we have every right to do that.
Let's dive right in. Let's find out if this is true, if this is logically true. Let us play pretend.
Okay.
Tomorrow, all of these Islamic nations right around Israel unite and they crush it and they wipe Israel out in a single day. Let's just say in this hypothetical.
Yeah. Okay.
What happens then to the United States? What happens to the United States?
What happens to the United States now is that you will have
See, and
created
here's part of the problem.
what Islam has
Andrew,
long dreamed of, which is a restoration of the. We haven't had an Islam.
Part of this too is that Andrew don't want to see what's going to. Some of this is like the problem with like America First agenda and people. People don't realize that America is nothing. I mean, we're going to be wiped out. We're not like in Revelation, like most of Revelation, we're not even talked about. How are we going to be wiped out? I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. I don't know. But we're not either. We're not going to be so relevant like we think we are when it comes to the prophecies and what's ahead of us, or we're going to be eliminated. Because it does talk about what a third of mankind will be eliminated. So think about that, a third of mankind. Is it North America? I don't know. I don't know where, how, who, what. It could be. But I do know that we're not talked about really much in Revelation. So, or yeah, like that, we just won't get involved, possibly. That might be some of it too. So it also, yes, and it depends on some interpretation. So I think we are the new Babylon. A lot of people do. So could be wiped out, right? Because we are the only ones that think high and mighty of ourselves. Oh, we're pride, the big, the proud Marine, the strong, the proud, all the, the brave, and we're invincible, and strongest and biggest and baddest, and our weapons. And God has a way of humbling people and nations. He has a reputation of humbling nations big time. I do think it's going to be I do think it's the land, because the land is talked about in Revelations, the bear and the lion, the eagle. We are definitely the eagle. So that is the land. I don't think it's a people. Although it could be a people, but even if it's a people, well, we are Americans. We are the eagle. So that could be a good portion of us wiped out. So that's just, I'm just saying that's one position, that's one possibility, one theory that can happen. So, always toot your horn. And to be honest, that's why it's like I'm not one of those ones that go, oh, I'm proud to be America. Although I like the song, I do. I like the patriotic songs. I like them for what they are. Like, I like them. It's not something I really subscribe to, just to be honest with you. And that's no disrespect to any veterans out there or service members. It's just I don't put our country and a flag and everything like that before God. I'm a human being, and you can have enough struggles with your allegiance toward God, right? Because we stumble, we fall, we get back up, want to pursue the race, live righteous, live holy. That's a pretty big allegiance to do that. And now you want me to allegiance myself to something that's really, in all actuality, if we're going to be talking about how bad Israel is, well, you want me to align myself in allegiance to a country that doesn't even serve the Lord. Kind of difficult, just to be honest.
Why do I give a shit about the Islamic Caliphate, though? Why do I care? The
Islamic Caliphate is in
destroyed
Dallas.
Israel.
The Islamic Caliphate is all over Texas. It is not only taken
That's
over.
immigration, though. We can fix immigration whether or not you have a Jewish state or not.
Hold on. Many of these Muslims have been here for decades. This project has been going on. Muslims came to Detroit in the 1920s. It was the anti-Semitism of Henry Ford, where he said,
Dinesh,
I want to go and bring a bunch of Muslims over here.
You got to stay on topic. Israel's gone now in this hypothetical in a single day. They just steamroll it. They take all the land.
Right.
Okay. They are reforming a caliphate, let's even say.
And you're like, who cares?
Yeah. When I go down to my toolbox to grab the wrench to wrench on my fucking car, I care about this. Why?
Okay. Why would you care if the same thing happened to Alaska?
Because those are my countrymen.
Oh, those are your countrymen. But you still can go to your toolbox and you can work in your garage. And if Alaska's off the map,
no, that would have drastic. Would have drastic, direct repercussions upon me if it was the case that one of the states of the country that I live in was steamrolled by Islam. On the other hand, I think that there would be far less drastic and direct consequences were it the case that, let's just say, Israel steamrolled by Islam. What I want to know specifically, if it was, what the hell does the mechanic in the garage down the street, what does that do to him? Specifically, what?
Well, in your view of the world, if it is outside the geographic border of America,
That's
The
not answering
toolbox guy has
question.
nothing to do
Are
with
the-
it. Would you
Answer
say
the
the
question
same about
that
Mexico?
Dinesh
I
is
want you
too
to
smart
answer
for
the
him and
question
doesn't know
I
how to
ask instead of the
debate how
obfuscation.
The
answers.
world
I
is
don't
a
think.
much more
Yeah,
dangerous
the world's
place.
a dangerous place, dangerous neighborhoods in
don't
the
care.
world. I know
It
it's,
doesn't
it's
matter.
terrible. That's all rhetoric. Answer the question I asked. Forget the rhetoric. Give me the logic. Let's pretend, seriously pretend. Game out the hypothetical with me. Israel's destroyed in a single day by its Islamic neighbors. Okay, that's what happens. It's gone. Let's just say. How the hell does that negatively affect the United States? What is it going to do to the average citizen here if that happens, even if Muslims are getting super uppity and want their caliphate?
Okay.
How, what?
All
what does
right.
it do?
Let's play it out.
Let's.
Okay, so number one, let's assume that a juggernaut launched out of, let's say, Iran and Qatar takes Israel.
Uh-huh.
And not only that, but now all the other Gulf kingdoms are intimidated, and so they submit to a single unified force. Let's just call it the United States of Islam.
Okay.
And that's the whole Middle East.
Okay.
It is fantastically rich. It has nuclear weapons, and it has a suicidal and genocidal ideology that says we love death. We don't like life. These guys, right, are now going to start bankrolling the Islamic project in America to a degree that you can hardly imagine. So we are now talking about the fact, and let's just game it out. You want to game it out?
Yes.
Let's game it out.
Okay.
Every politician in Texas, by and large, if you want to get their attention, just write them a check for $10,000 and they will call you within a week. Within a week to hear you out and what's on your mind.
Sure.
Now imagine an Islamic regime, 2 billion people in the world with almost infinite resources, offering every US congressman $100 million in their PAC if they vote on the side of Islam. What percentage of Democrats do you think would say no? I would submit it's about 1 or 2%. What percentage of Republicans would say no? I submit it's about 10%.
Okay, great.
My son-in-law included.
Okay.
But what we're basically talking about is a buyout of the United States of America, Inc. This is on the table. The Muslims say they're going to do it. They are doing it. We would
and all that stands in their way is 10 million Jews.
You started out.
All that stands in the way of all of the Muslim world uniting, even though there's nukes there now, even though they have a shared value to destroy Israel now, is 10 million Jews that are sitting. That's the stupidest thing that I ever heard. Here's actually much more likely. Hang on. I said let's game it out.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'll game it out.
Let's game it out.
I'll game it out a different way.
Okay.
They destroy Israel in a single day. Isn't it equally possible that they open up relations with the United States and the rest of the West because they want to enter into massive trade agreements? Because it is the case that they want their own people groups to thrive? Because it is the case that they are geographically landlocked away from Europe for the most part, and definitely the United States?
Okay.
Isn't it the case that we could then get oil for cheaper?
Yeah.
Isn't it then the case that there's all sorts of trade agreements we could have that we no longer have to sanction them on because we don't have to have this protectorate there? That's equally logically possible. The problem that you have here, I'm not saying that this should happen. I'm pointing out an analogy that you are making the determinative kind of quality here that 10 million Jews are stopping this nightmare scenario. And it's absurd. That's not what's actually going on. What's actually going on is the United States military is what's stopping that nightmare scenario, not 10 million Jews in the United States. And if we had mass migration of Christians to that region for their own holy land, for them to have their own holy relics, for them to have the Holy Land back to them, that region would be infinitely safer than it is right this second.
So I think here we've reached the point where the core naivete of your position, which is that the Muslims are just like the rest of us, comes to the forefront. When the Barbary pirates were menacing American ships and Jefferson sent ambassadors, Jefferson's question to the ambassadors was, go talk to the ambassador in Tripoli and ask them, what is their beef with America? They've been fighting with Europe for a long time. We haven't done anything to them. Why are they doing this to us? And the ambassador, Abdul Rahman, replied, he goes, it has nothing to do with you. We are doing this because it asks us to do it in the Quran. You are an infidel, and our job is to fight, defeat, and destroy the infidels. This is in the Quran. It is
Nobody's
the actual
disputing that.
constitution
Yeah.
of the world of Islam.
Great.
So when
I
you
agree.
say these are guys who want coffee shops and tall buildings and Trump Tower and high tech, yes. But I would say, and here is where you would say that the Muslims who want those things are actually the Muslims least attentive to the Quran. These are the Muslims who are actually less Islamic.
And less
the
inbred.
true Muslims
And less inbred.
the true Muslims see all of America as the house of war. So the idea that you suggest, which is that, gee, we're landlocked, we need to make some trade deals, is a complete misunderstanding of the nature of Islam. And this is part
Right,
of the
so the
reason
naivete
that you
is
see
on- hang
Israel
on.
as
So I
an
just wanna make sure-
unnecessary
I just want to
add-on.
make sure the naivete is on my part, that you believe the only thing stopping this future is 10 million Jews who are in that region.
No,
I just want to make sure that that is the
I'm
actual
not
position.
saying, I'm not saying, look, you gave me a hypothetical.
Yeah.
And you said, if Israel is obliterated, the scenario I'm describing doesn't require the obliteration of Israel. It
Sure.
simply requires the complete mobilization of those countries. I think what Trump is doing is he's playing a game in which he's trying to set one Muslim off against another. He's like, listen, let me see
This
if
is actually perfect. So that if it is the case, Dinesh, that this does not require the obliteration of Israel for Muslims to do this right this second, if they do begin acting this way, and I agree with you that they likely will, then I could see how Christians would have an obligation to intervene, especially in our own interests, because now they're coming here to kill us. Great. We would need to do something about that. But you see how you carefully took Israel out of that equation and 10 million Jews are out of that equation? What's the obligation morally that we have to go help them right this second, when you just made the claim that without them there, or with them there, this can still happen, even without their obliteration?
Well, let's extend out the same analogy to see why what I'm saying makes total sense.
Okay.
Now, I like what Andrew just said there. I kind of somewhat agree with him there as far as, oh man, it's difficult. As far as governmental type of stuff, I don't understand the obligations in government type of stuff to protect or be. But again, they need an ally just like everybody else has allies, right? Everybody else has allies. Like why is it okay if Iran has an ally? And they do. Why is that okay? But are those countries wrong for being allies to Iran? Or should nobody have allies? Should nobody have friends or neighboring countries or anybody that defends them or comes to the rescue or whatnot? And see, that's another problem with mankind. It shows how sucky mankind is and everything. The fall of mankind, a sinful nature, is because you have all this type of stuff going on. Right? This is all mankind. This is all evil. All this stuff is evil. Because every country and people want power, they want control, pride, XYZ. And so you have these type of conflicts that go on. Who's the biggest boss, right? So you have this stuff that just happens. And then you have, in the mix of that, you have so much debauchery from different countries and unions and democracies and all this type of stuff. And then you have countries, well, we have a bunch of freedoms, and this country doesn't have freedoms like that, and we want more moral ethnicity and righteousness, so to speak, and that country doesn't. So that country's wicked. There's so much entailed with all this. No one has the right to friends. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. It's a mess. That's why I don't think we should really be paying so much attention to this stuff. We should keep focused. Yeah. Keep Jesus in focus. Of course they are evil. That's why we bombed them. Yeah. Yeah. But see, that's what I'm trying to say, and that's what we got to be careful about ourselves, because we are just ideology-wise, we're not as evil, but morally, we are just as evil in some aspects, or more evil in some aspects, because morally, there's things that they don't do and are against that we do. And same with the Jews in this current state that they're in. We don't spread morality around the globe. We spread our economic interests disguised as, yes, around the world. Yes, I agree. And along with other things, we spread BET, right? We spread the raves. We spread the EDM music. We spread other stuff that morality is considered bad in a lot of these countries. Their ideology is bad, but our morality then becomes bad. So yeah, yeah.
Let's envision a scenario where it's not Israel that is overrun, but Australia, Canada, Great Britain, France, and Germany are overrun by the Muslims.
With their immigration policy?
That's right, with their immigration policy, but not just immigration policy, massively supported by terrorist infiltration, money coming out of Qatar and other Islamic countries.
How did the terrorists infiltrate without the mass migration, Dinesh?
No, many of them are already in the country.
Because of mass migration, Dinesh.
Because of original mass migration. Yes, I agree.
What we've done
is
that this is suicidal empathy, but that has nothing at all to do. If we have good border policy and we have good immigration policy locking Islam out of the United States and Western world, which I would love to see, right? This problem goes away regardless of us helping Israel or not.
Number one, many of them are already here. Number two, the Muslim Brotherhood has made it really clear in its memoranda that we don't actually want to focus on bin Laden types with long beards and white robes. People are looking for that.
Womb. They want to focus on the womb.
We want American-born kids, and American-born converts to take the vanguard. We need Islamic lawyers born in America. So unless you have some plan for getting out 30 million Muslims who are legal and U.S. citizens, by the way, you're talking nonsense. You're just hypothetically saying if we close the border, the problem will go away.
We're not the UK, Dinesh.
We're not the UK.
We have very few actual Muslims here in comparison to the population total size. We have a lot of Hispanics here in comparison to the population of total size, especially illegally. If we were right this second to curtail off immigration from Islamic nations, this problem does go away. It's not usually the fourth, fifth generation Islamic kids who by that time, by the way, have usually left Islam, who are the problem with this. What it is it's usually within the first couple of generations or people coming in on H-1Bs or coming in with different visas who conduct those terror operations. We've already absorbed Islamists. We've already absorbed a few million of them, but there's not that many of them. That's one. And two, over several generations of integration, that ideology, many of them moved to Christianity, they moved to secular ethics, they move to the general kind of civic ideology of the nation that they're in, if they're that small of a minority. So I don't think we would really have to worry too much about terror attacks.
Almost everything you're saying is factually untrue.
Which thing?
Okay. Number one, while it is true that European immigrants and Jews, hold on. No. I mean, it's my way of talking. There are other immigrant groups, including Jews, that have assimilated, that no longer practice Judaism. This is...
You know what, Angry? It actually should be a biblical debate, and it's not. And I to be honest with you, I think this is a skill that Andrew does, is he can get people to kind of lose what the debate is about. And I don't even think he really knows. I mean, the question the question is being thrown at, and which is kind of a stupid debate, to be honest with you, because it shouldn't be, the debate itself shouldn't be the question, right? Should, are we obligated or should we support Israel? I don't think that should be the debate, right? It could be more pro-Israel versus not pro-Israel. But in any case, if you're going to ask the question and base the debate around the question, it's just interesting that nobody has the Bible, and it should be a debate, a biblical debate, and it's not a biblical debate. They're going everywhere else because of questions and because of interruptions and because of not responding to each other properly. And I think that for me, I think that Andrew is kind of a professional at that, in my opinion, of not responding because he throws in all his other stuff that I think detours someone and gets them frazzled or off topic, in my opinion. He's pretty good at that. Yeah. I wouldn't like to debate him.
Least true of Muslims in America. Why? Because the mosque in Islam does not fulfill the same purpose as a church.
Yeah, but that's a half truth because
It's a half truth.
yeah, so it is in fact the case. Do you agree with me that by the third generation in an Islamic family, the children by that time are actually way more likely to leave that faith? One leaves for every one that joins, and usually the people who join, right? You have another one who leaves. It's a revolving door, which is declining. It is declining in the United States, not increasing.
You are missing a really important counter trend, just as true in America as in Europe.
Okay.
The children and the third and fourth generation of Muslims are far more likely to become terrorists and radical Muslims than even the first generation or the Muslims in the Muslim world. Why? Because in the West, we have a crisis of identity. Like, who am I?
Yep,
I'm in a meaningless life. I have a meaningless society. So Islam provides for people in the West that sense of higher purpose, motivation. You can be a soldier for Allah. If you go tell that to some guy in India or Pakistan, he has no identity crisis. He's not going to be talking this bullshit. If you tell him, listen, we all need to go pray in the middle of the street, he'll be like, are you insane? We don't do this anywhere in the Muslim world, but we do it in London. We do it in Dallas. We do it in America because the American Muslims have this sense of identity and they are much more likely to see themselves as fighting in a higher cause than some ordinary Muslim on the Muslim street in Jordan.
Yeah, but when we're talking about
that's true.
We're talking about domestic terrorism. Most of it's not even conducted by Islam. Let's be real. And by the way, the ones who are here already, if we cut off and curtail any more from coming in, this cross-generational problem does eventually go away. It has to. You're not having any more. You're not having any more come in. The ideology is terrible at spreading in Christian nations. Never been good at it in the West unless you import it. The thing here that's really funny, though, is that out of all of this, you still haven't given me an ought for why it is that Christians need to support Israel. And with all of the tangential policy that we've gone over, which I think much of this we can find some kind of even ground. Like you, for instance, I'm sure you would love to stop Islam from immigrating to Western nations. I'm sure you would love that, right?
Right.
Okay, I would too. So we have like an olive branch there. Neither one of us wants to see ethnic Jews persecuted, destroyed, hurt, anything like that, right? We can agree on that too.
Right.
And we don't want to see if that happened to Arabs either.
So,
we can agree on that too.
Yeah.
So we're talking about ID.
So let's try this because okay, why do we have obligation morally to ask? Why do Christians have a moral obligation to support Israel? So the question then has to be asked with this, because this partly goes in why. Did God make a promise with Israel? So why do Christians, Christ followers, people who obey Christ, right? Because that's what theoretically Christians are, people who obey Christ, follow Christ. Did Christ make a promise to Israel? Did he make a covenant to Israel? Did he make a covenant to Israel? That would have to be the question in relation to obligation to support Israel. And this is to me where they're having the breakdown. Christ said the old covenant is still in effect. I can't remember the specific verse. He did. And fulfilled that promise. The Messiah came from their bloodline, and they ignored it. It has nothing to do with what they ignored. And that's where we get hung up, because we're like, oh, they ignored it. But angry, if you continue with that, it also said, even though they ignored it, that's why they are blinded, but he will remove the blinder. The scales will fall from them. But the question is the promise. So if there's does God break promises? We can go there. Even though they ignored him, they rejected the Messiah. Does that cancel out his promise and his covenant to them people? There's a covenant. Does it, because they ignored it, does that cancel out the covenant that he did? Because if it does cancel out the covenant, then that makes God a liar. Israel in the New Testament is the church. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that anywhere in the scriptures that Israel in the New Testament is the church. We are grafted in. It says we are grafted in. It doesn't say that, like, we are now Israel. We are grafted into Israel. We are grafted into that. Again, but see, no one's answering the question. I asked, the question is again, does his promise to Israel, to Jacob and Jacob's descendants, is that promise voided now because they rejected the Messiah? Because there was a promise given. Was there a promise given or not? Was there a covenant given? Is a yes or no question. See, and this is how because you guys can't start doing what they're doing. This is why they can't get nowhere. Was there a covenant given? Is it yes or no? If it's a yes, okay. So is that covenant gone away? Is that promise gone away? Yes or no? Okay, so if there was no covenant, okay, well then, cool, there was no covenant. So there's nothing to argue about. If there wasn't a covenant, if there is a covenant, did it go away? It's yes or no. No, it didn't go away, or yes, it did go away. If it did go away, how did it go away? If it did not go away, okay, so now let's move forward. So is there a covenant? Was there a covenant? Yes, and the promise did not go away. That's what Oddball says. So can anybody say that the covenant did go away? Again, we have to separate modern Israel. Like, we have to separate, because I know this stuff. Like, modern Israel, how we're viewing it, you're viewing it as government. So modern Israel, government, right? Government is separate from bloodline and Israeli and people in the country. I'm a Christian, so am I. It's the same thing. We have to look at it as the same way as we look at us who are Christians in America, right? Us Christians, we're under our government. We're under our government. Well, you guys are Americans. Well, I'm grafted into a child of God because I've obeyed the scriptures. I've obeyed what he says. I'm grafted in to the family, to the bloodline, to the seed of David and XYZ. I'm grafted in. I'm in that. I'm in that promise that he gave to the Israeli people. It's a promise. And again, no one's really wanting to answer that question. Is that promise there or not? And this is a problem that they're not. Andrew and Dinesh don't know. Is the promise there or not? So if the promise is there or not, right? Then there's also commands. There's also commands. I will bless them that bless thee. That is a command. So who's he talking about? Who and what? Who is God talking about when he actually said, I will bless them that bless who? Who's them? Who's the thee? Who's the and curse him that curses thee? Who is all that? Right? And in thee shall all, not some, but all families of the earth be blessed. Believers, so this is why how these guys aren't arguing it correctly. Then in Romans, you go into Romans and it talks about for the gifts and callings of God are without repentance. So for the gift, he gave a gift, he did a calling, they're without repentance. They're without repentance. The promise is there. Yes, I understand. Yes, 7 lilies. I understand that. Okay, so if you're not viewing it as a government, but you're still not answering my question, has the covenant? You're saying so. Basically, what you're saying is that the covenant is gone. So I'm going to insert it for you because you're not. So you're saying that the promise that he gave Abraham, that he gave Isaac, and that he gave Jacob, which became Israel, that promise is gone. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying, that God's covenant, which is a promise, is gone. So that's what I'm just going to say. That's what you believe, that promise is gone. Because you can't find nowhere in scripture that we took that promise away. Because the church did not come into establishment until the New Testament. The church was born in Acts. Israel was way before Acts. The church, which you are because you're not Israeli, was before the church came into play, before the body of Christ. Me, you, whoever else is on here who are in this dispensation, this time period from the birth of the church back in Acts on the day of Pentecost, we are new. Israel was already going on. The promise was already to them. So did God break that promise away? If you think these objectives haven't already been answered for 2,000 years of Christianity, it's just insane to me. What objectives? I'm not sure what you mean by objectives. But yes, yes, he did say, "Whoever believes in me enters the kingdom of God." They don't. So was he misspeaking? No, he wasn't. He wasn't misspeaking. But believe in what? Because you're still jumping to New Testament. You can still jump to the New Testament, right? And that was actually before the covenant. But you're still jumping to that New Testament. Did he do away with the promise? The promise was back in Old Testament. Did the promise go away? It's a simple yes or no. Yes, the New Testament, which our faith is upon. Our faith, yes, our faith is upon. Mm-hmm. But it's not just about our faith. What do you believe in about the New Testament is our faith. That's where the obedience comes into play. That's where again, just believing. I mean, the devil believes more than all of us believe. So that it absolutely means absolutely zero, nothing to believe, to be honest with you. That's only a part. Believe what do you believe? What do I believe? Believe in him. Whoever believes in him, believes in what in him? So and again, it's like, again, nobody's answering. We agree that we've been grafted into the lineage of Abraham. What's the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? That's the lineage. Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. There's a lineage. So we've been grafted into Israel. God doesn't break his promises. Those who reject Christ broke the promise. Okay, so right. So those who reject Christ broke the promise. So those who reject Christ broke the promise. They didn't break a promise because they rejected Christ. They didn't break a promise. They didn't make no promise to Christ. God made the promise. They didn't make a promise. God made the promise. So it's not those who reject Christ broke a promise, because God made the promises, and his promises are good no matter what. It's a promise. God's not a liar. No matter if they break it or not. That's not for us to work out. That's for him to work out, because again, if you guys read and understand, his promise also said that you guys will come back to me. I blinded you for a time period. Again, another dispensation for a time. I blinded you. Okay, so if he already gave another promise saying, here's a promise, I'm going to blind you that you cannot see me because of XYZ, but there will come a time when your blinders are off of you and now you actually see who I am. That's still a promise. Why can't, if we are biblically sound, then why don't we believe that promise that he's going to lift the blinders off of these people so that they actually see who he is? That's part of the promise. Yes, they will profess Christ as God. Yes. Yes. That's part of the promise. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what we're grafted into. We haven't replaced them. We're a part of that. Are we Israel? Yes. But we haven't replaced Israel, the descendants, the bloodline. We haven't replaced it. We were grafted in. The blinders don't come off, the blinders don't come off until the end. I think it's actually when the son of perdition is proclaimed. I think when the Antichrist stands in the temple, that's when the blinders come off. That's when the blinders come off. Yeah, see, there's it's a fulfillment, not a replacement. Yeah, it's a fulfillment, but there's also a promise. This is part of the fulfillment, us coming in. That's a fulfillment. But again, the promise is not gone from them. Because a part of the promise is that the scales. Blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles become in. So blindness is on them. That's Romans 11:25. And so Israel shall be saved. 11:26. So if Israel will be saved, who's the Israel? That's what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying that we got to be careful of what we're speaking of and how we talk about this in-depth topic when it comes to Israel, because it's deeper and there's facets to it. Yeah, there is a government which is wicked, again, no different than Americans, but there is a promise to the people and descendants of Israel, and some of them still live there. And so that's why we have to be careful. And on top of that, the land is bigger than Israel. So you guys don't, okay, so that's good that you don't believe in the replacement theory. That's good. It almost sounded like you did a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. There's different wordings for it. It is Matthew 17 through 20. Yeah. Think not that I come to destroy the law or the prophets. I came not to destroy, but to fulfill. Or some translations say do away. Yeah, it's a tough topic. It's hard to understand all of it. It really is. It is.
Ideology here. So when we're talking about and we're discussing ideologies and these ideas, I'm still going to take you right back to the original point. And the original point is that Judaism leads to the same type of secular progressive poison ideology. The Jewish faith itself does this, just like it is the case that the heretical Protestants do the exact same thing. And I would say that that is 10 times more damaging even
And me too.
than
And
if we had 10 times the amount of domestic terror attacks we have right now from Islam.
Let's test your proposition that Judaism itself gives rise to secular degeneracy.
Sure.
You've had Jewish communities in many, many parts of the world over many, many centuries.
Like Israel?
No, I'm talking about the diaspora.
Okay.
And I'm talking about through the Middle Ages, through the end of the Roman Empire, in the time of the Renaissance and the Reformation. Now, you would expect, if Judaism is the problem, that all the secular degeneracy would emerge by itself inside of these tribal Jewish communities. You'd expect, for example, that when Shakespeare talks about the Merchant of Venice, the Jews would be like having sex with a dog, or they would be, killing off their kids, or they would be engaging in all kinds of moral degeneracy. You get the exact opposite picture. The Jews maintained not only their tribal identity, but a strict regimen of laws and codes and commandments. Shylock is upset with his daughter because she marries a Christian. But from Shylock's point of view, that is not moral laxity. That is a rigorous enforcement of Jewish orthodoxy. So the secular, the secular degeneracy emerges in the West, outside of the Jewish community, then it penetrates and pollutes the Jewish community, and you're trying to blame Judaism for it.
No, I'm not. I'm telling you that all heretical ideologies lead to secular progressive values because they don't hold the truth of Christ. If you don't hold the truth of Christ, you cannot know the truth, period. You, for instance, Dinesh, I'll give you an example of how it is you don't hold truth. You claim, for instance, that you would say that Jesus Christ isn't a Christian, right?
Yes, angry, you are correct, but it doesn't cancel out a promise that was already given. Okay, so if that's the case, here, if it does cancel out, okay, because of a new covenant and things were fulfilled, well, then we're going to get a flood again. It floods the whole world because that was a promise that was made in the Old Testament. Right? That was a covenant. That was a promise in the Old Testament, and there's a new covenant, so we will get flooded again. No, he actually says that it will be fire this time. Because that promise in the Old Testament, in that covenant, still stands. He made a covenant with Israel. He fulfilled it because they couldn't. They couldn't walk it out. Adam failed. I repented for making mankind. We're going to reset this with Noah. I'm going to flood the earth. Right? So we're going to reset. God repented. They all turned against me. They all hated me. They're all wicked. Repent. Well, they fell back into it again. Israel wanted a king. Israel wanted this. Israel didn't want me. All right, let me come down there, show them the deal, show them what's up. I'm going to be the sacrifice since all the goats and sheep and little snakes and little poodles and dogs and cats don't work. I'm going to come and be the blood sacrifice, right? The promise is still there. That promise did not go away for Abraham. It didn't go away for Isaac. It didn't go away for Jacob / Israel. It didn't go away because he already made a promise. Okay. Now, since y'all mankind are such screw ups, right? I'm going to be y'all sacrifice. I'm going to shed blood. I'm going to make me a little body, a little shell. I'm going to crawl up in there and be that thing to be the blood sacrifice. Now y'all coming to me going forward. Okay. Israel's still blinded because of the promise. Going forward, right? We skip forward. There will come a time when that blindness falls from their eyes. They will then come into me and be back with me. Just as you Gentiles, you dirty dogs, don't associate, you Jews don't associate with the dogs, XYZ. They're with me right now, but you guys will, I'm going to lift the blinders off your guys' eyes, and then you guys will be back with me. So that's why I say there's a lot. Yeah, never again will he destroy the earth with a flood, right? Because it's a promise. Just like it's a promise to them, even with the new covenant, because the new covenant has to do with other people being drafted in.
Jesus Christ can no more be a Christian than
Marx can be a Marxist.
Or Buddha could be a Buddhist, or Confucius could be a Confucian.
Yeah,
it is
great.
actually impossible.
Great. Is God omnipotent and omniscient?
Is God omnipotent?
Is God omnipotent and omniscient? Dinesh?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then that would mean that he saw Jesus's crucifixion at the same time that he made the earth. Is that the case?
Yes, that is the
Okay,
case.
well then great. And what did he determine at the very second the earth was made? Then if he saw the beginning of time and the end of time,
Yes.
as Jesus Christ was being crucified, what was Jesus Christ's purpose?
To come as the Redeemer of the world.
And is Jesus Christ God?
Yes.
Then Jesus Christ was a Christian. Thank you. That's what happens when you don't hold
This
truth.
is called philosophical horseshit.
How? Refute it.
I'll refute it.
ahead.
No, that
Okay.
is refutable.
I'll refute it.
I can't wait.
Okay. I'm going to apply your same logic
Okay.
to let me think of what's the best way to
Think hard, man.
unfold this. Well, let me get to what I think you're doing.
Uh-huh.
The Bible operates on more than one level. In fact, the early Christians spoke about the fourfold way to read the Bible. The Bible should be read literally or historically, number one.
Okay.
Metaphorically or symbolically, 2.
Okay.
Morally, 3. And eschatologically or prophetically, 4. And the early Christians emphasized that all 4 readings are simultaneous. Neither refutes the other. So there is the historical Jesus. He came into the world just like the flood actually happened. And Noah really did build an ark.
How is this refuting my logic?
Here, I'll tell you why. Because you then go, is God omnipotent?
Yeah.
Isn't it the case that the ark represents Christ? Yes, it does.
No.
Metaphorically, the ark does represent
Can
Christ.
you just give me my...
Metaphorically, the ark was foreseen as a
This is
progenitor.
prattle, dude. Look, can
Prattle.
you
True.
repeat back my argument
Okay.
and then refute it?
Okay. I'm refuting it thus.
No, repeat it first.
Okay. Your argument is that God foresaw that Jesus would be the Redeemer of the world from the beginning of the world.
Because God's non-temporal, he's omnipotent, he's omniscient.
Correct.
So if that's the case and Jesus Christ is God, right?
Yes.
Then how could it possibly be that he, as he saw Jesus' crucifixion, knew his purpose for the world and heralded it with every single prophet he had, that his purpose in life,
What-
God's,
on Christian-
wasn't Christianity? And he wasn't a Christian if that was the entire purpose.
Oh, right. And he wasn't a Christian.
See,
So
this is-
that's that last quick move that you make. That's
Uh-huh.
completely fallacious.
How's it
God could have
fallacious?
seen from the beginning of the world,
Yeah.
I will take an itinerant Jewish rabbi
God
who was
bless you,
born
Seven
a
Lilies.
Jew
Nice.
Uh-huh.
named Yeshua, whose dad was a Jew named
Yeah.
Yosef, and his mom was a Jew named Miriam.
So Christian comes from a non-Jewish pagan people. Antioch. That's where it came from. That's exactly where it came from. Non-Jewish pagan people. It was a mockery. So no, Jesus was not a Christian. Christ means anointed one. That's all Christ means. Right? That's what Christ means, anointed one. Do you think that was his last name, Jesus Christ. It says Jesus the Christ, Jesus the anointed one. So this whole thing, oh, Christian, Andrew saying Christ was a Christian. No, that was a mockery. I mean, if you want to say people mocking you, I mean, like seriously. Well, think about all the stupid things that the left has said about the right. Oh, you guys are chuds. You guys are Nazis. No, we're not Nazis. Well, because you said, oh, I want to claim it now. Really? It did not mean Christ-like. Or it could, yes. I mean, yes. It was it was ridicule. It was a mockery. Right? I'm not going around. Oh, I'm a Nazi. I mean, right? I've played with it. Not something I continue for 2,000 years saying. Like seriously. So Christ, in essence, wasn't a Christian. He was the way. He was the truth. That's actually what it was called back then. It was the way and the truth. I'm following the way. It had nothing to do with this thing that got made into Christianity. Yes, exactly. Same with those who, yes, it's the same thing. It was a mockery. So it's just weird that more historical stuff that people don't realize that it's actually biblical. It was a mockery. It's kind of like when they said, "Oh, you're a wine bibbler, a friend of sinners," and then everybody creates songs. Oh, Jesus is a friend of sinners. They create songs like that. Nowhere in Scripture did it say that. It was a mockery because he was sitting down, ministering and witnessing to people, trying to bring them to repentance. The Pharisees caught it. Oh, you're a wine bibber and a friend of sinners. They were accusing him of doing something to try to catch him. It's not that he actually was. They were just accusing him. But then Christians are like, oh, yeah, Jesus was our friend of sinners. And again, make songs about it. Weird.
Who kept all the Jewish rites and celebrated all the Jewish festivals and taught
Yes.
as a Jew coming to save the Jews first and foremost, and then later allowing other non-Jews to be grafted in. The Bible couldn't be more clear about this. Jesus was the Jewish savior of the world.
This literally doesn't
Now,
refute my
in
argument
Antioch,
at all. It's not
it
even
does refute your
contending with it.
It
If
does
God
refute
is
your argument
omnipotent
because
and God is omniscient, and God saw that the purpose for himself was to die on the cross for our sins at the very beginning of time. His purpose was Christendom, and he was a Christian. How could it be
No.
anything else? It's not even logically possible for anything else to occur. You say, you
It is logically
you can't call
possible.
Marx a Marxist. What if Marx was omniscient and omnipotent and knew that he was going to institute Marxism? Could we call him a Marxist then? Could we call him a Marxist then, Dinesh?
Well, the problem
Could
with,
we call him a Marxist then?
if Marx identified and said, I'm a Marxist, I'm going to start this movement in which I am its first leader.
Right from the beginning
And
of
that did
time.
not happen with Jesus.
Perfect.
Did it?
What?
Did Jesus say, guess what? I am a Christian and I'm starting this new religion called Christianity, and everybody who follows it now is going to take my name. Jesus did not do any of
He
that.
didn't need to.
He didn't
because
need to, but he
fulfilled-
didn't do it, right?
fulfilled
He didn't do it.
The
No.
purpose, if you fulfill the purpose for which you yourself foresaw and heralded would happen, Jesus Christ knows that he is God. He knows it. He knows what the fulfillment of his own ideology is going to be, and that is Christianity. Yet you still say he's not a Christian, even though the Jews reject him. That's insane. He's omniscient. He's omnipotent. He's non-temporal. He sees the end and the beginning simultaneously. You can't refute this.
I am refuting it.
How?
Because you are using omniscience to get around logic.
2 minutes.
Here's the logic.
Omniscience?
Well, let me lay out the logic. Let me lay out the logic. Jesus, hang on. Let's just pursue this for a minute. Let's think for a little bit.
I'm thinking.
Jesus is a Christian.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Jesus is a Christian is a statement of the type A is B. Right? A is B. Jesus is A Christian.
Yep.
Now, in logic, if you say A is B, it must follow everything that is true of B is also true of A. Otherwise, A can't be B. A is B means whatever you say about B is true of A. Now let's look at a bunch of things that are true of Christians.
Okay.
Okay? Do we follow Christ? Isn't that the meaning of Christianity? Yes. Did Jesus follow himself? No. We worship
Then
Christ.
who did? Hang
Hold
on.
on, let me finish my
Who
thought.
did he follow?
Jesus followed the Father. We follow
Jesus is himself. part of
Jesus
the
is
concept of
himself the Father, but
Just to be
Jesus
sure.
was
So who
also-
did he
Just-
follow then?
Just to be sure we hear the last thought.
Who the hell was he following?
Do we as
Was he
Christians
following
hold on?
Pharisaical
Just-
Jews?
just
Do
to
we
be-
as Christians
Just to hear the point.
do we as Christians worship Jesus?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did Jesus worship himself? No.
Who did
Do
he
we
who
as-
did
hold
Jesus
on.
pray to in the garden?
Just to let Dinesh finish his point.
Number 3,
Yeah.
we as Christians are in need of salvation and we need a savior to die for us.
Jesus
Otherwise,
did
we
it.
can't be saved.
True.
Did Jesus need a savior to die for him so that he could be
No,
saved?
he was the
No.
Savior.
Right. So now what you're doing is in repeating back to me what I'm saying is you are reluctantly agreeing that the statement A equals B cannot be true because I've just told you 3 things that are true of B that cannot be true of A.
Okay, so let me just make sure I got this correct.
He did
We'll
out.
see. We'll see if
Yes, he
this
did.
actually holds. If this actually holds logical muster or not.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start with this. Jesus Christ, you say, is
That
not a
was actually
Christian.
good. That was
He's a
good.
Jew, right?
Right.
Okay,
That was
got
good.
it.
Historically.
Historically, right? He incarnates as a Jewish man.
Right.
Okay, so there's no dispute there, right?
Right.
Was his ideology Jewish?
His ideology was Jewish, yes.
His idea. So
Yep.
why did he die for our sins?
Because he was sent on a divine mission to do that.
By who?
And to do that
By
as
who?
he was sent by the
idea.
God of the Old Testament, the God the Father,
Uh-huh.
the
Here's
God who chose
here's
the
where they're
Jews,
messed up
chose
theology
Jesus
now.
to come out of
Uh-huh.
that
Okay.
Jewish line.
And who is he
And-
dying for?
And while Jesus died for all of mankind, his ministry
Mhm.
was to the Jews. It later took a Paul, it took
Fact.
other apostles.
Do you think that Jesus never intended his ministry to be?
No, I
for-
think he did intend
Great.
it.
Me too.
I think he did
So
intend it.
So the fulfillment.
But so what?
So the fulfillment of Christ's purpose is Christianity.
No one denies that it is. Yes,
Okay, great.
it is the
So then
fulfillment
if-
of Christ's purpose.
So then, if
but
it-
that doesn't mean that Jesus was
hang
a
on,
Christian.
Dinesh, we'll walk it through.
Okay.
Okay. So if the fulfillment of Christ's purpose
Yeah.
is Christianity,
Yep.
then how can you possibly say, if he has the foreknowledge that that is going to happen, that he wasn't always a Christian? How?
Well,
Did God change his mind one day?
no. If
No. So then he always knew.
hold on. If through the particularity of history,
Yeah.
a Jesus comes, let's just say Jesus came from America.
Okay.
Okay.
This is where
But he
we're-
had a ministry for the whole world.
Yeah.
And he foresaw that the whole world would receive the message.
Yeah.
Would Jesus cease to be American? Would he become a globalist?
No. What
He
that
would
have to
remain
do
an
with it?
American because he was
um,
born in America. He was
What?
American through and through.
Sean, I think
He
we're
ministered to the Americans.
Sean, I
and the
think we're-
fact that his
Sean,
ministry was worldwide
Uh-huh.
and
Sean,
foreseen to be worldwide
Sean,
and known by God to be worldwide does not change one bit the fact that Jesus was, is, and will remain an American. That's a fact, and you know
And
it's
we
true.
agree that
But you
hang
have
on.
to. You
So
ha-
I'm gonna show you how stupid this logic is.
Okay,
real
how
quick,
so?
Dinesh. So you say Jesus would remain American, right?
That's right.
And we agree that Jesus remained Jewish, right?
Right.
Okay, great. But the fulfillment of his ideology was Christianity.
Yes.
Okay, great. And we know that from the very beginning of time, he knew the fulfillment for all of mankind was Christianity.
So
So then, if
that
the
make him a
fulfillment
Christian?
of the entirety of the ideology
right.
is Christianity, and you have the foreknowledge of that is the way, the truth, and the light, and you have that fulfilled in yourself, he comes and dies. How could his ideology, right from the very beginning, not have been Christianity if it was the case that he was coming to fulfill Christianity?
I'm Karl Marx.
Uh-huh.
I'm born in Germany.
Yeah.
I'm a German.
Yeah.
I foresee
Yeah.
that I'm going to write a book, the Communist Manifesto, that is going to be adopted by Russia and China that will create massive communist societies on my model. And not only am I writing for that purpose, I know that purpose in advance.
So you have omnipotence.
Hold on. Does
or
that make
omniscience?
Marx a Russian or a Chinese? Of course not. He remains a German. He remains someone who has put out a German message, which was then picked up and adopted worldwide but it doesn't change who he was in the slightest. You're acting as if because Jesus knew
What?
in advance.
Wait, hang on. Just want to make sure I get this right.
Okay.
So you're talking about his nationality. So
Well,
because,
I'm just by
because
analogy.
Marx, because Marx knows beforehand that people are going to accept his ideology, he's still a Russian. But
He's
we're
not a
just-
Russian. Marx was a German.
Okay, but I'm pointing this out, right? Whatever he is, let's just say,
Okay.
he's that thing still. We still agree that Jesus was Jewish and he was born in Bethlehem, right? And we agree to these facts.
And we agree that Jesus subscribed to Judaism. It wasn't just that he was Jewish in the sense that he happened to be born over here.
But he knew that his purpose, he knew that his purpose was Christianity.
He knew that, right? He did. He
Okay.
knew that his purpose was a universal gospel message.
Now,
and that his followers would go by the name of Christians.
Now let's
They would take his message.
let's take the Marx analogy very
Sure.
quickly.
One
Let
minute.
us pretend just very quickly that Karl Marx had the gift of foresight and he knew that Marxism was going to lead to capitalism. That was going to be the fulfillment of Marxism. It was always going to lead to capitalism, and he knew it. And that's why he instituted Marxism and allowed Marxism to happen, because he knew it was going to turn into capitalism. Was Marx a capitalist?
No, he would remain a Marxist.
Okay.
Isn't it true?
This is.
Are you
we
saying
do
that?
have to-
Are you saying that if Marx realized that in the unfolding of history, Marxism would, let's say Marx foresaw that my Marxist model will somehow be changed, and capitalism will replace Marxism.
He only had Marxism there to get to the capitalism. That's what it was there for, to lead to capitalism. Was Marx a Marxist then or a capitalist?
Well, first of all, the reason your analogy is so dumb is it actually reverses Marx. Marx thought that
I know it reverses Marx.
So
one more time, Marx foresees that Marxism is going to lead to capitalism because he's omniscient, and his ultimate purpose is capitalism and not Marxism, but he knows Marxism will lead to capitalism. Was Marx actually a Marxist or a capitalist?
Well, Marx would be a Marxist whose followers would be capitalists. It's obviously true because the fact that I foresee.
And you know logic, huh?
Okay, well, I think what we're talking about is history
wouldn't be a capitalist.
versus
We got
eschatology.
30 seconds.
But that's my whole point. And
okay.
I think that went off on a side tangent. I did want to address it
What do
because I
you
know it's
think
part
that Jesus?
Well,
of what it is that
you're
you believe.
using.
But I'll just point this out.
Okay.
What do you
We still
think
haven't
that
actually
Jesus
established
did do?
any moral oughts.
That Judaism? Well, I guess we have to describe or say what Judaism is. What things did Jesus not do that the Jews did? He denounced the elders as heretics. What? Did he? He believed in the ancient teachings, but not the current day religious practices. Like the current day as far as where we're at type of thing, or what? Or back then? I mean, even if it was back then, that would still say that he did practice Judaism, because that's what the time that he lived in, So he was I mean, if that's who he was, that's what his culture was. He was practicing it, but also at the same time, well, actually, to be honest with you, there were things. No, his days. He schooled them while he was still a teenager. Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, because he also did school them because they had a misunderstanding of things, right? Such as the Sabbath. Because they were trying to grill someone for something. He said, wouldn't it be better to, on the Sabbath, to I'm paraphrasing it big time I'm paraphrasing. But wouldn't it be better to help somebody out? It was something along those lines. So yeah, there were things that he actually broke, that the Jews were doing and practicing. Yeah. So there's truth to that. There's truth to that. Yeah.
Well,
At all for why Christians have to support Jews or Israel, not one time.
well, you're using Islamic logic. Islamic logic is to take
There's only
somebody
one
like
logic.
Abraham, who is Jewish, never saw himself as anything else, and you're going, the Muslims will go, he was a Muslim. They will take Jesus, who saw himself as Jewish. Of course, Jesus foresaw Islam, but they'll go, Jesus was really a Muslim. Now, the reason we would immediately recognize this as bogus reasoning is because you don't have the right to foist on people identities that you invented later and give them names and labels that belong to you as if you can somehow appropriate them out of their environment.
That's not
right.
why-
That's what you're doing.
That's not.
But that's what you're doing.
That's not why we would
I
find
hate
that
to do it, gentlemen.
fallacious.
We have to. This is the time when we do normally go into the Q&A.
Oh,
but
okay.
it has
Can
been an
Can we get a
amazing-
brief closing each?
yeah, that works.
Okay.
How much would you guys like? 2 minutes? 3 minutes?
Just 2 minutes.
Yeah, you go first.
okay.
Yeah. You should close last. I agree.
Well, I went first in the beginning.
Yeah. No. I agree. You should go. You should have the last word.
Okay.
So, first and foremost, this was really fun, and I really appreciate you coming up here and tangling with me, Dinesh. And by the way, I never take any of this personally. We have different ideologies that we're fighting for, slightly at least, but we have a lot of overlap too. And for that, I thank you. It's never personal for me. With that said, I kicked your ass in this debate bad because you never established a single moral ought or reason why it is
That's not
that
right.
Christians have an obligation to.
15, 20, 15, 25. It says, then came she and worshiped him, saying, Lord, help me. That's what it says, Matthew 15, 25. That's what it see.
Support Jews or Israel. In fact, I got a lot out of you here I was not expecting. You claim that Judaism is itself an evil ideology because it's in heresy. You also claim that Islam is an evil ideology as it's in heresy, which is exactly my position. I believe those two things as well. And we both established another fact we can agree on, that ethnic Jews nor Arabs are evil because they're ethnic Jews or Arab. That's ridiculous on its face. So we can make this ideological distinction immediately. The problem that we have is that I think due to your bad theology, which I'm happy to tangle with you in a different debate on the theological aspects of this, it's led you down this road where you seem to believe, for some reason, there's this ambiguous moral reason why there's an ought or a must for why it is that we must support Judaism or we must support Israel, this secular state, which you agreed was a secular state. And you also agree, well, it also has religious Jews in it. And those religious Jews who are in it, they're following an evil ideology, and the secular state itself is part of an evil ideology because it's secular. We never got to the establishment of the ought. Now, I will give some credit to Dinesh. He had the harder position to defend, and usually that's me. So credit where it's due. It's a much harder position to defend that there is some moral obligation versus saying that there's not. So credit where credit's due.
Who is this guy?
But honestly,
Or
my
did-
friend, you just never established one. And we tried and tried and tried and tried. Most of your analogies got turned back on you. Basically, every hypothetical you had got turned back on you, and your
15
reasoning
seconds.
was shown to be completely fallacious. And with that, I'll end the debate. And I thank you very much for having it with me.
Thank you very much. Ready for you.
As Christians, are we morally obligated to support the Crusades? Yes. As Christians, are we morally obligated to support the spread of the Roman Empire and the Roman legions who carried Christianity across Europe? Yes. Were the Roman legions good guys? No. Were the Crusaders always good guys? No. Were we morally obligated to support the Allies in World War II? Yes. Were they all good guys? No. But they were on the right side of a terrible evil that was being unleashed in the world. Were we right to support Stalin against Hitler? Yes, because Hitler posed a greater threat at the time. Having supported Stalin against Hitler, were we right to have a Cold War against Stalin himself? Because he represented an embodiment of a different kind of evil in the Cold War. Yes. The world is no different today than it's ever been. There are lots of bad forces in the world, and there are some good forces that are trying to counter them. It's a very big world, and there are in it Buddhists, Confucians, Taoists, Jews, Muslims. The fact that they are not on board with us theologically is one thing. It says that we need to promote the Great Commission, we need to promote the gospel, we need to support missionary efforts throughout the world. I don't disagree with any of this. But this is being deployed in a kind of brutish fashion to somehow imply that Judaism is different than any. We make allies with countries all the time. We have common cause all the time that lasts for decades, sometimes centuries. We have special relationships with countries for good reason. We support, and we should support, South Korea against North Korea. That's why South Korea is a prosperous Western society. Now, maybe they allow a pride parade, but they are nevertheless a much preferable moral alternative to North Korea.
30 seconds.
The Jews are basically the good people in a really bad neighborhood made up of really bad people who wish us evil no less than them. Right there is a link, and this is not even considering the historical, the religious, the civilizational, the Athens and Jerusalem, the fact that our own heritage is inconceivable without the Old Testament no less than the New. We are linked historically, morally, and it so happens to be that there is a current serious threat, in some ways greater than threats we faced before, and it's a threat faced not just by America, it's a threat faced by Christianity, because the Islamic project is a religious project. It is the first totalitarian religious project in world history.
And
we've had other totalitarianisms, but not based on religion. We're dealing with one. And what we've had, this whole debate, is a pretense that somehow there's no fundamental difference between the Islamic project and the Jewish project. And all of this nonsense about the fact that somehow Israel is just as evil arises out of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dinesh.
All right. There you guys go. There you go. There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Look at that. Look at that. Awesome. Awesome. They're doing Q&A, but I know it's late. Well, it's late for me too. Yeah, that was a good one. I actually liked it partly, but there's things I didn't like. But overall, it was good. So it is what it is. You know, this weekend for you Portlanders, Oregonians, you know what this weekend is? I might have to go down for this. I might go to Portland. But you know what this weekend is? I bet no, you guys don't know. It's very sentimental and historic. I bet you angry Oregonian doesn't even know. He don't even care. And he's an Oregonian. Imagine this. What is Saturday, angry? You're an Oregonian. You better know this. You better know it. It's a good, been finding the debating scene where people are. What is this Saturday? The angry Oregonian. What's this Saturday, broski? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know? No clue other than my day off. Ha 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 ha. All right, I'm getting ready to spill the beans, you guys, what this Saturday is and how important this Saturday is. This Saturday is the final day, and I mean final. It's the final day. It's the final day I know I just ruined it. I had it build up. Wow. It's the final day. Wow. You serious? Wow, it is. Mm-mm-mm. Wow. No clue. Y'all gonna make me cry. Of drum roll. A place that was built in 1960. A place that was built in 1960. A historic place. A true last standing icon in Portland, Oregon. And one of the first of its kind. You should know this by now, Angry. I'm giving it all away. It is the final day of the Lloyd Center Mall on Saturday. I will probably go there to cover it. It's been relatively a ghost town for the past definitely 6 years, maybe even longer. Like, and I mean, when I mean ghost town, I mean a true ghost town, like truly a true living, breathing ghost town of a mall for definitely since COVID. You don't care. I don't ice skate no more. Well, you better care because they're trying to reserve the ice skating rink. And well, I used to go there as a kid. So sad we have a mall in Erie County, Pennsylvania. I don't believe they will last much longer. Yeah. I miss the old malls in northern Utah. I miss the malls. I love the malls. And I still do. Like malls are just anyway, they're it. Um Lloyd Center, yes, open in August 1st, 1960. It is closing this Saturday. It was an outdoor mall. Um yeah, it was outdoor mall. And they used to have the Christmas celebrations there. I wonder if Tanya Harding will show up. No, that was Clackamas, bro. That was Clackamas. Although she did go to Lloyd Center once, I believe. I think she went to Lloyd Center a couple times. So that is what's happening. Say goodbye to Lloyd Center at these 8 Wild Last Day Mall events. Oh, there's events. I didn't know there was events going on. I did not know there was events going on. Interesting. I did not know that. Bummer. What are the events? I don't know what the events are. And I can't see them because they're covered up because I haven't signed up for the Oregonian. Definitely go. I will watch. Well, thank you, Shells. You don't want to be a drive-by victim. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to see final week of Lloyd Center. Community walk through the mall, a bike ride, and final skate for the Jerry and Tally. Yeah, there's gonna be stuff going on. A lot of stuff. So go down there and film that. Be there for the weekend. Well, not the weekend, but at least Friday, Saturday. I don't know if I can do Friday. Maybe I'll have to figure it out. I do remember Pickway shoes. Yep. They had a lot of cool stuff in that mall. Especially when it was an outdoor mall during the winter, it was so cold and it'd snow and the snow would be coming down inside the mall and the Christmas tree that stick way above the roof. I mean, that bad boy was taller than the Christmas tree they put at Pioneer Square in Oregon, downtown Portland. At the tree, and then because Lloyd Center was doing a tree first, and then Pioneer Square was built like in 1984 ish. Because the Portland City Breakers actually opened up Pioneer Square. Because my buddy was a break dancer on Portland City Breakers, and they opened up Pioneer Square. I think it was 84. And the Christmas tree was already established at Lloyd Center. And then they started doing one downtown. So you'd have two Christmas trees, big Christmas trees within the city, but Lloyd Center was always bigger. And they actually made the one at Lloyd Center. Without a real, it was so cool how they made. I wonder if there's videos on that. That'd be so cool to see. If they actually have videos of that. I doubt it because YouTube wasn't around at the time. I doubt if they do. I doubt they do. There's no way they would have that. How it was built. It was so cool. Yeah, they don't have that. I'd have to look for it. That'd be some like serious stuff to look for. Anyway. Wow. I was a Washington Square guy and then Town Center. I like Town Center. Never stepped foot in Lloyd Center. Never. What? You never stepped foot in Lloyd Center? Even when it was outdoor? Oh, wow. That's abomination before the Lord. Abomination before the Lord. Wow. All right. Oh, we got Joe Brown's caramel corn there. Oh, so good. Anyway, 12 years ago when it was still a squared ice rink, and then they changed it to some oval looking thing like it is now. Oh, anywho. All right, you guys, I'm gonna get out of here, but I'm gonna continue to post stuff from the fires. Still pay attention to that. And then let's see, massive police presence in several blocks cornered off in downtown Sacramento, 8 blocks from the Capitol building where Governor Newsom works. All police are tight-lipped. I thought it must be an armed robbery. Woman is threatening to jump off the Target building. Well, the Target building isn't that tall, is it? Crazy. That's happening right now. Sacramento. Well, about an hour ago. It's a lot of police presence for a woman jumping off the Target building. We're threatening. So, all right, you guys, let me get out of here. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Thank you all for following. Please make sure you guys hit the like button. I didn't even tell you guys to do that at first. Hit the like button. If you guys would like to help out with anything, like my work, whatever I do, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, buy me coffee, give us and go. Everything is the BC Preacher. Appreciate y'all, and y'all get some rest and have a wonderful, blessed night. Good night.
Yeah. On American streets. Yeah.
On American streets.
Yeah. Yeah. On American streets. American streets.
Truth in the light, yeah, the whole world see. Faith front deep, where braves stand free. From quiet prayer to the place we meet. Quincy Franklin, bring truth on American streets. BCP preachers still spinning the beats. From BJJ's now preaching in the streets. Fight for God and the freedom we keep. Still stand strong on American streets. Truth, truth, let the truth ring out. Faith, faith, that's what we about. See both sides, but we stand on truth. Call this nation back to its roots.
At its father's knee, where the roots run deep.
Freedom riders stood tall in the heat.
Now the same fire in his heartbeat.
Carry that truth on American streets. From DC down to the Texas heat. Minnesota cold, the Oregon trees. Live in the streets where the people meet. Roll nationwide on American streets. Truth, truth, let the truth ring out. Faith, faith, that's what we about. See both sides, but we stand on truth. Call this nation back to its roots. On American streets. On American streets. Thankful for family standing beside. Mods and supporters along for the ride. Sponsors and friends who keep it alive. Truth in the word is how we survive. Then Peter said unto them, repent and be baptized, every one of you, in the name of Jesus Christ, for the remission of sins, and ye shall receive the gift of the Holy Ghost.